subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Was greatly satisfied, and she shouted wildly, "You can't catch up with me anymore? If you go at the next speed, your soul may be thrown out." Hell motorcycle show. As Lisa's body floated down, her palms suddenly hit the ground, and the scarlet magic circle was summoned. The light in the center of the array dispersed. Wrapped in it was a motorcycle with red and yellow stripes. "Sluggish fairy, are you ready to eat my exhaust?" An arrogant laugh came from Lisa's mouth. Getting on the motorcycle, Lisa poured the magic power into it and suddenly burst out at even more amazing speeds. Gain absolute control over speed. Lisa was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, she tried to speed up her horsepower and circle around Mo Bai. The high-speed motorcycle whipped up hurricane winds and even cut away the swaying weeds. Lisa wanted to use this method to kill Mo Bai's fighting spirit. Seeing this, Mo Bai immediately activated another golden dragon-slaying magic crystal in his body. The violent magic suddenly appeared, and Mo Bai's whole body was already surrounded by thunder and arcs. If you can't catch up with only the wings of the storm dragon, then add the power of thunder and lightning. Only then did Lisa look at Mo Bai again. The speed of lightning and storms? Interesting. Faced with the sudden shooting of Mo Bai, Lisa no longer held back and sprinted forward at top speed. Seeing the motorcycle approaching the cliff, he turned around in time and returned to the original road. This was to deliberately tease Mo Bai. But the powerful dragon-slaying pressure behind him remained unabated. "Are you still chasing after me? Then consider your speed to be at a passing level." Leaving the motorcycle behind, Lisa dodged into a nearby bush and jumped to the branch where she started. Looking back, Mo Bai had arrived and was standing in the air with his wings to confront him. Exciting. Enjoyable. No one has been able to reach the same speed as me for a long time. Ha ha ha. The game time is over, little goblin. Was your magic power exhausted in the pursuit just now? Next, when you are attacked by me, you will not have the strength to run away again. Mo Bai watched quietly as he went crazy on the spot, until I heard Lisa finish. Mo Bai then said expressionlessly, "Well, you won't be able to run away soon." What? Only then did Lisa feel a chill coming from above. Looking up, I saw more than a dozen ice cages hanging in the originally gloomy sea of gas trees, like a dragnet, and he happened to be directly under a cage. "I seem too obsessed with chasing you just now, but do you want to lock me up? Your cage can't keep up with my speed." Faced with Lisa's sneer, Mo Bai looked indifferent, as if he had already realized that he would say this. He raised his finger casually and pointed behind Lisa. Lisa turned around in surprise, only to catch a glimpse of a shirtless young wizard standing on the top of a towering tree in the distance. The magician's left hand turned into a fist, his right hand turned into a palm, and his hands were knit together, and the biting cold breath continued to emerge from them. Lisa was shocked. "That's your companion?" Correct answer, but unfortunately, there is no reward. "Gray, do it!" As Mo Bai's shouts reached his ears, Gray in the distance focused all his attention on the cage that had been arranged. After the magic was cast, more than a dozen cages instantly merged into one, and then landed with a huge impact. "Ice-shaped prison. It's useless. I'm very fast." Lisa didn't finish her sentence. Boom! The birdcage-like prison suddenly fell down, directly trapping Lisa in it, breaking off the branches together and crashing to the ground. Mo Bai also put away the wings of the storm dragon and went below to check the situation. Within prison, Lisa's eyes were full of shock. "Impossible. My speed is unmatched by anyone in the world. How could I not escape this?" Mo Bai poured cold water on him unceremoniously and continued. "Because you are not that fast at all. What you are using is just magic that unconsciously reduces people's speed and speed perception, while your speed remains unchanged. Compared with this, it seems that your speed is very fast. It's a bit self-deceiving." Mo Bai saw through her magic trick at a glance. Lisa was speechless and choked for a moment. Just then, after completing the task, Gray also leaned out of the bushes, walked to the cage and said, Mo Bai, and I had already discussed a strategy before fighting you. Mo Bai has long seen that your magic has a range of use. As long as it is far enough away from you, it will not be affected by the slowdown. That's why I stood there and released the ice prison. Recalling the scenes of his rampage just now, Lisa finally realized that she had fallen into the trap of these two people from the beginning and immediately beat the ice prison with her fists and feet like crazy and shouted in anger. Two cunning fairies. Are you only capable of these dirty tricks? Mo Bai still looked calm and relaxed, tearing off a large piece of bark next to him and putting it in his mouth to chew to restore his magic power. Ba, save it. If it weren't for capturing you alive, do you really think I can't beat you? Ba, capture me alive? What are you going to do? Lisa seemed to hear something was wrong. When the 6 prayers disappear, the president of the 6 demon generals will come. Am I right? Lisa was immediately shocked. How is it possible? How do you know this? Mo Bai looked at Lisa with a surprised face happily and waved at Gray casually. You don't need to know this. All you have to do is stay in the cage and ensure that your prayers will not disappear. We will not let you get hurt. Gray understood immediately when he saw this. The ice magic burst out again, spreading to the ice prison, and the ice began to grow continuously. The coldness penetrated Lisa's body, and the hair on her hair stood on end. Wait, what are you going to do? Mo Bai then explained. Don't worry, I told you I won't hurt you. It's just to prevent you from harming yourself. Lisa looked down at her body and realized that it was completely covered in ice and could no longer move. Wait, Lisa wanted to say something else, but the ice cubes had spread to her face and sealed her mouth directly. Half a minute later, the ice cage is completely solid. Lisa was sealed in it, not to mention her body. She couldn't even move her eyes. Mo Bai also stepped forward and kicked him twice. Will your ice cubes stay cooked? After receiving Gray's affirmative answer and confirming that it was strong enough, Mo Bai put the ice cage on his back and moved forward again. Although Lisa's magic power cannot function, she still retains a clear consciousness. He carefully recalled the scene of the first battle between the 6 demon generals and the guild coalition forces. It was finally determined that Mo Bai was not in the opponent's team at the time. Lisa immediately fell into regret and completely underestimated Mo Bai, the airborne foreign aide. But how on earth did he know the secret of the 6 demon generals? Chapter 40, This is not a potato. It's a baby. No, it's a head. South of the Gas Tree Sea. The 3 Cyan Pegasus and Leo who were traveling together moved forward with hesitation. On the way, Ivan finally couldn't help but said, Teacher Iya. Iya turned around and showed a smile that he thought was very handsome. Men, what can I do? Ivan asked. How did Mo Bai know about the magic crypt boat Christina? Logically speaking, it is impossible for him to have seen it before. Iya didn't seem to care about this and replied casually, Since we are allies, don't think too much about these issues. I believe in brother Mo Bai. Man, as expected of teacher Ichiya. While the two were talking, Leo suddenly shouted excitedly. Look over there, there's smoke. It must be Christina. Leo unconsciously speeded up and walked happily through the bushes ahead. Immediately, he saw the nearly crashed magic crypt boat Christingina. It's really here. The magical crypt boat Christina, which used to fly across the sky with astonishing power, is now in a semi-destructed state due to the attacks of the 6 demon generals. The cab exploded and half of the wing was destroyed. It seems impossible to return to the sky. After a night of investigation, he looked slightly solemn. The cab can be repaired by Ivan, but there are too many damaged parts, I'm afraid. Leo took over and said, This is easy to handle. I can use my ice-shaping magic to temporarily replace the missing parts. Leo immediately connected his fists and palms, and the ice magic flowed to Christina's side. It condensed into exquisite white wings in an instant, exactly the same as before. The 3 Cyan Pegasus were immediately overjoyed and tried their best to save the cab. Iya couldn't help but sigh. That little brother Mo Bai's plan is really good. In this way, with the division of labor and cooperation among us, we can really make Christina fly again. Man, Leo was even more confused. But how did he know that I know the ice-shaping magic? Did Gray tell him? At present, this is the only reasonable explanation I can think of. At the same time, Jura and Sharia suddenly stopped during their search. In the shadow under the tree in front, a burly figure slowly emerged, walking towards the two of them. This man was dressed as a monk and was taller than Jura. His long orange hair fell behind his back, and his right arm was wrapped around a magic book engraved with strange patterns. Hote, Jula looked stern and immediately recognized the other person, turned around and shouted to Sharia, "Let's go. Walk." Hotai's magic is mainly range-based attacks, and Sharia, who has weak magic power, will only be involved in it for no reason and get injured if she stays here. Seeing Sharia retreat to a safe position, Jula immediately pushed forward with his right palm, and the powerful earth attribute energy suddenly burst out. The ground trembled, and dozens of stone cones instantly rose from the cracks, attacking Hotai all the way. Hotai, on the other hand, took his time in the face of the tough attack. He still hugged the magic book with his right arm and waved his left hand casually. The originally hard and sharp stone and soil cones all turned soft, like a puddle of mud. Hotai smiled and said, "Your magic is to make the soil as hard as rock iron, but I can soften the sand. All your attacks are ineffective against me, right?" There was a bit more determination on Jura's face. He took a deep breath, and the index and middle fingers of his right hand came together, and the fingertips shone with a stoic magic light. As his fingers danced, the earth trembled violently again, as if a powerful and mysterious force was surging out from the ground. Rock iron pillar! With an ear-splitting sound, for thick rock pillars suddenly rose from under Hotai, vowing to fly him away. "I've already said that all your earth magic is ineffective against me. Is that right?" Hotai shook his head and repeated his old trick. The softening magic power is activated. The rock pillars that were originally thick, long, big, and hard, like Yang Wei, spasmed in all directions and collapsed to the ground. Jula's attack failed again. "Come again? Rock iron pillar!" As Jura continued to attack, Hotai was able to resolve it perfectly every time. Before you know it, the battle has lasted hundreds of rounds. The flying sand and rocks covered the entire sea of trees in the east, and everything they passed was turned upside down, with raised, sharp-angled rocks everywhere. But apart from the consumption of magic power, the two of them suffered almost no external injuries. Jula is preparing to activate the next round of magic. But suddenly I felt a terrifying magic power coming from below, breaking through the surface of the earth at an extremely fast speed. Boom! Jura and Hotai dodged backwards almost at the same time. A huge white light pillar appeared where the two people were originally, and the light pillar shot straight into the sky, causing the sky to change dramatically. Several gray-black magic ripples wrapped around it, emitting strange fluctuations. Jula was immediately shocked. Although he is the Holy Ten, the magic power in his body is like an ant compared to this mysterious beam of light. Could this be Nirvana? A look of astonishment also flashed across Hotai's face. But unlike Jula, Hotai's face soon showed the joy of unexpected victory. It turns out that Nirvana is underground. Is that right? Because we have been using Earth attribute magic power to fight, energy fluctuations were injected into the ground, and Nirvana was accidentally unsealed. Isn't that right? Jula finally recovered from the shock. The accident that Mr. Mo Bai mentioned really happened. I have to find a way to join them first. Once Nirvana is launched, this crusade will definitely fail. Firm this idea in your mind. Jula suddenly heard a shrill cry from ahead. Ah! Looking up, it was Hotai, who had just fought with him for hundreds of rounds. But I don't know why. At this moment, his face was full of struggle and suffering, and he held his head tightly with both hands in an attempt to relieve the pain, but to no avail. Jula watched carefully, fearing that this was another trick. Money, 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 money. The word money kept popping up in Hotai's mouth, but his voice became smaller and smaller until he became hoarse. Money. I don't want that. Hotai suddenly said this arrogantly and removed his hands from his face. In an instant, even his eyes became clear. I don't want money. Really, Clam? Seeing the huge changes before and after him, Jula suddenly looked confused. Seeing that Jula didn't respond, Hot Eye immediately spoke with emotion and told his past experience. I desperately wanted to see my brother, who I separated from when I was a child. I thought I would be able to find him if I had money. It's true, but it's only now that I understand that my direction has been wrong. I shouldn't join the Dark Guild and join in the evil. Really? Okay, now let's go together to stop the atrocities of my former companions, Lord Jura. It's true. As soon as Hot Eye finished speaking, he rushed forward and hugged Jula into his arms, crying bitterly. Tears dripped down Jula's bald gourd. Your Excellency Jula, when I saw you, I thought of my brother and couldn't control my emotions. It's true, Jula asked in confusion. Why? Do I look like your younger brother? No, your bald head looks like the potatoes my brother loves to eat. It's true. This is not a potato. It's a baby. No, it's a head. Jula was in a state of confusion. Finally, I recalled the information about Nirvana that Mo Bai and Xiang mentioned earlier. Only then did I realize that Hot Eye might have been affected by the alternation of light and darkness in Nirvana. In the inner battle between justice and evil, he has transformed into a kind personality. Chapter 41 Boring? Other side, Mo Bai and Gray, who were still heading north with Lisa, who was frozen in ice, were also attracted by the black and white light pillar reaching the sky in the east. This scene is certainly familiar to Mo Bai. Nirvana. Is it really opened? Originally, I just reminded him later just in case. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be a prophecy. So, where should we go now? Continue walking in this direction? Gray asked. Mo Bai analyzed. No, let's go to the location of Nirvana. Now that the seal has been unlocked, the other members of the 6 demon generals will definitely rush there. That makes sense. Slightly adjust the position of the ice cage on the back. Gray turned around and was about to leave, but his arm was held by Mo Bai. Someone is coming. There was a rustle in the grass ahead. Under Gray's gaze, a few seconds later, a big purple snake emerged from it. Hiss. The big snake's body is as thick as the mouth of a bowl, and its body length is almost as long as Jula's. It is constantly spitting out the words in its mouth. This is the snake that bit Erza. Gray suddenly remembered and shouted. Mo Bai remained calm and continued to observe. There are still footsteps of a person behind the big snake. Do you want to go to Nirvana? I have heard your voices. Cold and mocking words reached his ears. The other party finally leaned out from behind the snake and looked at Mo Bai and Gray playfully. Mo Bai narrowed his eyes slightly and clenched his fists slightly. He was no stranger to this person. He has sharp teeth, dark red hair, and a white coat covering his body. He looks like a gentle scum. Cobra, one of the 6 demon generals, and that snake is his partner Caberios, who has been with him for more than 10 years. Facing the enemy, Gray also removed the ice blocks and took a stance. Be prepared to create a lot of ice swords, guns, swords, and halberds at any time to turn Cobra into a hornet's nest. But was stopped by Mo Bai. I have a special way to deal with him. This person is the Poison Dragon Slayer mage. He can also hear people's voices. He is a difficult opponent. Look after Lissa. Mo Bai's voice was not loud. But Cobra's hearing magic is particularly keen. It can not only hear subtle conversations nearby, but even people's inner thoughts. Naturally, what he just said did not escape his ears. Seeing that his background was revealed, Cobra was startled for a moment, but soon returned to his original cold demeanor. Although I don't know where your information comes from, it ends here, and you can't leave. Mo Bai ignored his warning. As the powerful earth attribute dragon-slaying power circulated in his body, it finally condensed in the palm of his right hand. Mo Bai lowered his body slightly and suddenly struck out with his palm to strike first. The earth dragons crack. All the way from the guild, I used wind and thunder magic to speed up my journey. In addition to the battle with Lisa just now, thunder magic consumes magic very quickly. Even if Mo Bai's innate magic power is abundant, it cannot withstand continuous consumption. You still have to save some money. In order to prevent special situations later, Mo Bai did not pursue a quick solution this time, but conducted trials first. Magic power exploded, and a huge gap instantly opened in the ground from where Mo Bai cast the spell, and he rushed forward. Cubelios. When Kibirios heard the call, he quickly twisted his snake body and wrapped it around Cobra. Just when the cracks in the earth were about to spread to the feet, a pair of wings appeared out of thin air on both sides of the snake's body, taking Cobra directly into the air. This snake can fly? Gray couldn't help but be stunned. It seems that this battle really has nothing to do with me. Storm Dragon Wings. Mo Bai also activated the wind, a tribute dragon-slaying power in his body, and at the same time spread his arms flat, turning into two long black swords, and swept away in the air. Iron Dragon Sword. I hear you. You're going to attack from my left. Cobra smiled contemptuously, showing sharp teeth at the corners of his mouth, and then dodge. The iron sword passed by. Seeing that Mo Bai remained calm, as if he was about to give up the attack, Cobra listened again, but heard a completely different answer from Mo Bai's heart. Want to change your moves into an iron rod again to attack. In the sight, Mo Bai's figure instantly enlarged in his pupils, and the original swords were briefly covered by the light and turned into two hard cylindrical sticks, which were struck at his head. Iron Dragon Stick, a two-pronged approach. Even if it were the hardest rock, it would probably be knocked to pieces on the spot. But Cobra had already seen through Mo Bai's path and quickly dodged back. Mo Bai failed again. This happened again and again, and after several rounds, Mo Bai didn't get any advantage. Sure enough, I can hear my voice, and any tactics can be known in advance. Cobra was even more proud. Give up. I am indeed not as good as you when it comes to pure magic power. But I hear every move you make, and there is no way you can defeat me. Really? An intriguing smile appeared at the corner of Mo Bai's mouth. As his arms returned to their original appearance from the iron rods, the aura of fighting in his body gradually dissipated. Since you like to listen to my thoughts, you might as well take a peek and see what I'm thinking about now. The sudden move confused Cobra. Cobra has no idea what medicine Mo Bai is selling in the gourd. But to be on the safe side, we still keep a safe distance from Mo Bai. In this case, I'd better listen to his inner thoughts first. It's strange. He doesn't have a battle plan in his mind? Is there something wrong with my hearing? I can't hear his thoughts at all? Huh? It seems that I can receive it again, but it doesn't seem to be a battle scene, but more like a moving painting. Just me and Kibirios? Wait, something doesn't look right. Wait, no. Why did I control Kibirios in such a rough manner and open its mouth? A hole! Stop it! Cobra turned red and warm in a second, panting heavily and staring at Mo Bai. Mo Bai still looked calm and spoke as if nothing had happened. How's it going? Can you hear what I'm thinking? Cobra suddenly lost his guard even more, gritted his teeth, and roared. Pervert. Shameless. Dirty. Dirty. Why do you think of such a scene in your mind? Kibirios is my best friend. How could I do something like that with it? Are you disgusting? Despicable. Scum with a sperm brain. Cobra used all the dirty words he could think of on Mo Bai in one breath. Gray next to him was dumbfounded. Gray quietly poked Mo Bai with his elbow and asked in a low voice, "What did you just do to him?" "It's nothing. He can hear people's voices, and then I made up some pictures in my mind, which happened to be known to him." Mo Bai's tone seemed very innocent. Gray looked at Cobra, who was still gushing, and connected with what he just said. Is Kibirios that snake? Damn it, could it be? Gray's pupils dilated instantly. Looking at Mo Bai meaningfully, he slowly raised his thumbs up and said, "You're having so much fun. I didn't expect you, who usually looks like you have thick eyebrows and big eyes, to be so fussy." It's just tactics to deal with the enemy, just tactics. Mo Bai responded awkwardly. P.S. Regarding the respective battle plots of other characters, I have chosen to briefly mention them briefly in the 6 Demon Generals chapter. If you want to see the detailed content, or just give it a try, please leave a message here. How other people's battles will be written in the following article will be determined by your message. Chapter 42, Victory in Sight. Cobra had reached the point where he had no words to scold, but the anger in his heart had not subsided, and he glared at Mo Bai angrily. But he didn't expect Mo Bai to say something that made him bleed again. Actually, I can think of more postures. If you want to hear it, you can continue. Enough! What is intolerable is unbearable. Cobra finally broke through the defense, desperately maximizing the poison magic power of his body, wrapping it around his feet and forcing Mo Bai down. The spiral jaws of the poisonous dragon. This move undoubtedly played into Mo Bai's hands, and Mo Bai secretly thought, "Want to use magic to confront you from the front? I finally got fooled. The hot bright red dragon-slaying magic crystal is ready to move in Mo Bai's body." The energy continued to gush out and materialized into billowing flames, burning fiercely on his right fist. Mo Bai concentrated on jumping forward. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. The next moment, Mo Bai's figure continued to enlarge in Cobra's eyes. Fists and kicks connected, and the hot wind and poisonous gas quickly intertwined. "I kill you!" Cobra was already jealous and poured all his magic power into this blow without any reservation, and the poisonous gas became more and more intense. Even Gray, who was watching the battle, couldn't help but cover his mouth and nose at this moment. But Cobra soon discovered that no matter how much poison gas he released, Mo Bai's expression never changed at all. The fire in him never dimmed, even a little. Cobra was shocked. How is it possible? Is he stronger than the president? The flames spread, swallowing up all the poisonous gas, until it spread instantly when it touched Cobra's legs. Cobra's whole body was covered in flames, and the burning pain was unbearable. After only a few seconds, he was unable to resist anymore, and together with the flying snake Kibirios, his body fell helplessly from midair. Whoa! Struggling to get up, Kibirios crawled beside Cobra and let out a mournful cry. "I'm fine, don't worry." Cobra used his last bit of strength to raise his palm and rub Kibirios' body, showing a painful smile. In his blurred vision, he seemed to see Mo Bai walking towards him step by step. "Please let me go, Kibirios." After squeezing out a few words from between his teeth, Cobra completely lost consciousness. The battle is over. At this time, Mo Bai also put away his unruly look of deliberately irritating the other party and spoke in a deep voice. "Originally, I planned to let Gray freeze you. This would be more secure and ensure that Guild Leader Wu's seal would not be broken. But the snake venom in Erza was caused by you, and you must pay for it with blood. As for Kibirios, look at this lone purple snake." Mo Bai was really undecided. Kibirios has followed Cobra for more than 10 years and has always been regarded as Cobra's best friend. And Cobra's long-cherished wish is to hear the voice of Kibirios one day. At this time, he did not know that Kibirios was not a snake, but a living human girl. It was only because he was cursed with magic when he was young that he maintained his snake form. If I remember correctly, Kibirios will be discovered by Chairman Makarov after this battle. Then, the president will take Kibirios to dispel the curse on his body and return to his human form. Then he will change his name to Kinana and stay at Fairy Tail as a waiter. It seems like she is still my guildmate. Thinking of this, Mo Bai called Gray directly. "Gray, did you see that snake?" "Of course I saw it. What's wrong?" "Freeze it. After the war is over, bring it back to the guild and give it to the old man. He will understand." "Ah, what are you doing?" "Just do what I ask you to do." Gray glanced at Mo Bai thoughtfully. "Don't you have that kind of hobby?" "I won't do it for you. I ride on a horse." Mo Bai laughed and cursed and was about to slap Gray, but his raised arm suddenly froze in midair. The sudden pain was transmitted to the brain, causing the whole body to tremble uncontrollably. "A splitting headache." "Mo Bai, what's wrong with you?" Gray immediately exclaimed and grabbed Mo Bai, who was about to fall. After half a minute, the headache slowly subsided. Mo Bai rubbed his temples, then waved his hand and said, "Maybe flying the storm dragon wings all the way here, plus the 2 battles just now, consumed too much magic power. It will be fine after a little rest." After hearing this, Gray put his heart back into his stomach. "You scared me to death." But since coming to this world, Mo Bai has been diligently practicing magic and has become more and more skilled in controlling magic. For this kind of battle that does not require all-out efforts, there will naturally be no magic overdraft. I just made a random excuse just now, fearing that Gray would be too worried. As for the reason for the headache, Mo Bai himself can't explain it now. "What's going on with this headache? My head is still dizzy." "Let's go to Nirvana first." At the same time, Team Natsu in the west. Lucy, Natsu, and Hibiki from the Cyan Pegasus met Angel, the only female member of the 6 demon generals, and a celestial mage with Lucy. However, Angel already knew the 3 of them thoroughly. Taking advantage of the Dragon Slayer's weakness in various vehicles, he lured Natsu onto a raft, directly wiping out half of the team's combat strength. However, with the help of Hibiki's magical ancient document, Lucy unexpectedly awakens the supermagical star chart history and uses the power of the 88 stars in the sky to carry out all-round targeted attacks. Angel unexpectedly suffered a disastrous defeat. The entrance to the gas tree sea. Erza and Wendy were originally left there by Mo Bai to recuperate, but were unexpectedly found by Midnight, the most mysterious member of the 6 demon generals. Dragging her recovering body, Erza overcame Midnight, who used refraction and illusion magic. Seeing that he was about to win, Midnight's body suddenly erupted with monstrous magic power, transforming himself into a 10-foot-tall devil. Boom! The devil was about to attack Erza, but suddenly he received a solid shot and dissipated into smoke. Erza looked at Midnight, who was lying on the ground in front of her again, and realized that it was just his illusion magic. As for that crucial shot, it came from Team One Night. They also successfully completed the mission ordered by Mo Bai and brought Christina back to the sky, just in time to return to the starting point and support Erza. Midnight lost. The balance of victory seems to be slowly tilting towards the Guild Alliance. Chapter 43,000 Years of Killing. After taking down Lisa and Cobra one after another, Mo Bai and Gray have embarked on the road to Nirvana. Are you okay? Why don't you take a rest? The magic power is consumed so much. Leave the rest of the battle to me. Seeing that Mo Bai's expression was not good, Gray asked with concern. No need. Let's go. Mo Bai turned his arm into an iron dragon sword again. He cut down a gas tree at random, picked up a thick branch, and chewed it to restore his magic power. Although the severe headache that came after defeating Cobra was relieved, it turned into an intermittent pain. It can't help but be irritating, looking at the enlarging white light beam in the sky. In addition to being depressed, Mo Bai also felt that there seemed to be some strange changes in his heart. But even he couldn't tell what the specific changes were. We will reach Nirvana soon. Let's go there first to avoid a long night and many dreams. However, it seems that someone is already fighting over there. Although the existence of Nirvana covered a large area of the forest, Mo Bai still caught some magical atmosphere from it, and immediately shouted, "Leave the ice cube where it is and hide first." Mo Bai held down Gray and dragged him to the grass nearby. The two of them crept forward together. It didn't take long. Gray then made a discovery and shouted excitedly. Right in front, I saw it. It seems to be Jura from the Scales of the Snake Princess, and Sharia, who is hiding behind him. They have already faced off with Brian, the boss of the 6 demon generals. Wait, there seems to be another person standing next to Sharia. I can't see clearly. Can you see Mo Bai? Mo Bai. Mo Bai's voice came faintly from behind. Gray, I don't mind if you block my view in front of me, but if you point your butt at me, I won't tolerate it. But you take off your pants at this time, and I can only see your crotch. Do you believe that I will give you a 1,000-year shot? Upon hearing this, Gray hurriedly covered his hands subconsciously. Although he didn't know what the 1,000-year kill was, Gray could vaguely feel the chill in his vital parts. I guess he could guess a little bit. Ahem, sorry. Gray then turned around and asked seriously, but in a head-on fight, can Jula beat Brian? Should we go out to help? After all, before Mo Bai arrived, all of them had been beaten by the 6 demon generals who reported to the regiment. Mo Bai is not worried. Don't worry, as long as President Wu's personality doesn't appear, Brian is just a rookie. What's more, Jula is the Holy 10 and is fully capable of handling it. Then we can't just watch now, right? Gray asked. Go over there. Mo Bai pointed at the boulder next to him, getting closer to the fighting men. The two moved their positions again and hid behind the boulder. This time, Gray finally saw clearly who was next to Jura, but the result surprised him. Gray couldn't help but wonder. Those are the 6 demon generals? Why are they on Jula's side? What Gray was talking about was Hatai, who had previously fought against Jura. Due to the conflicting magical attributes, the outcome was indistinguishable, but in the end he was inexplicably influenced by Nirvana. This was within Mo Bai's expectation, and he immediately explained, "He is Hatai, he is not weak." It should be due to the influence of the activation of Nirvana that Hotai's inner feelings changed, and then he stood on a united front with Jula and the others. Gray felt a little relieved, but explained it to him immediately. But there was murmuring in Mo Bai's heart. "I remember that Nirvana affects people who are on the border between light and darkness, and makes people's good and evil natures replace each other. Will it affect at least two people? For example, if Hot Eye recovers his kindness, then someone on the Guild Coalition side may be affected and temporarily switch sides." Mo Bai has the impression that in the original plot, Sharia had negative emotions due to Leo's serious injury, and was then affected by Nirvana and turned to attack Gray. Fortunately, Leo showed up in time and was able to exorcise Sharia's inner demons. But right now, Sharia is very normal, and she hasn't seen any of her teammates' rebellion. Mo Bai became more and more puzzled. It's really strange. Who could it be? Could there be something wrong with someone else? It's best not to go there now. If Natsu goes berserk due to the influence of Nirvana later, it will be troublesome. Mo Bai and Gray still chose to observe in secret. As for the two sides confronting each other on the court, the smell of gunpowder is already permeating the air. Brian's skin showed a deep copper-black color, as if it had become copper-black after years of baptism. His white hair hangs down like silver threads, exuding an ancient and mysterious aura, like a wise scholar. But if you look carefully, you can find several strange dark stripes engraved on Brian's face, like shackles, seeming to seal some mysterious power. Brian looked behind Jura, and when he saw that Nirvana had begun the first stage, Brian's mouth corners couldn't help but rise, and he said, "In that case, I would like to thank you. Nirvana has actually been opened, and it takes no effort at all." When Jula heard this, his unsmiling face also showed a slight wave of emotion. Indeed, Nirvana was accidentally unsealed due to changes in the ground environment caused by his fight with Hot Eye, although he did not have this intention subjectively. Because of this, Jula adjusted his posture again, steadied his stride, and spoke word by word in a rich voice. "I won't let you go." There was a cloud on Brian's face. The right fist holding the skull staff began to clench, quickly raised, and suddenly pointed in the direction of Jula. Ever dark Rondo, the chanted spell fell, and the dark green magic wave was released from the mouth of the skull on the cane, mixed with destructive energy, snaking forward like a dragon. Jula's face was determined, and the index and middle fingers of his right hand were pressed together tightly, and strong magic power seeped out from the ground. Rock and iron wall. The tall and thick rock wall broke through the ground, protecting Jura and Sharia and Hatai behind him. As the dull rumbling sound shook through the woods, Chong An's rondo crashed straight into the rock wall, exploding a huge hole. Brian looked intently and saw that the three of them walked out from both sides unscathed. Although the blow just now was powerful, it was far from the level that could penetrate Jula's defense. It's really tough. It's worthy of being one of the top 10 magicians. Brian finally looked at Jura squarely. If you don't look at the various fancy effects and application methods of magic, there is no doubt that his attack is the most lethal among all the members of the 6 demon generals. But facing Jula's absolute defense right now, it actually seemed a bit useless. After a brief deliberation, Brian chose to raise his left hand this time. Everdark Palm. The dark attribute magic power condensed into the shape of a palm. As the left hand was pushed out, it instantly enlarged to the height of a person and crashed forward. Jula repeated his old tricks. Rock and iron wall. After the loud noise, the smoke dispersed. A clear and huge palm print suddenly appeared on the rock and iron wall, which was left by Brian's Everdark palm. It also shows from another perspective that the attack just now is just scratching the surface. Brian, who was eager to rush to Nirvana, was a little impatient at this moment and began to provoke Jula. Holy 10. Heh, can you only use this move to become the Iron BD? Chapter 40, For the Strength of Holy Ten. Jilla was naturally not affected by such low-level provocations, so he responded with a sonorous response. I won't let you take a step forward. Well, Brian laughed angrily and picked up the skull staff again, the aura of death gradually gathering in it. At the moment when the dark energy reached its peak, Brian, who was a squishy mage in the back row, took the initiative to rush forward with a single lunge. Ever dark fantasy. Compared with the everlasting rondo just now, the magic used at this moment is more biased towards short range and high bursts. After all, it was tested. Brian also knew that ordinary attacks would probably not be able to harm Jula, an immovable defensive mage. This special burst attack is a must. Jula's eyes were still looking straight ahead, and he was about to continue blocking the dark magic in front of him. But in the blink of an eye, the ever-dark fantasy that was right in front of us, and Brian, who even released his magic, disappeared like a ghost. Behind me, although Jula majored in defense, his combat experience and perception ability were also not weak. He quickly sensed the dangerous atmosphere and turned around suddenly. The brown light on the fingertips jumped. The rock and iron wall that had been released before was now twisting again with Jula's fingers. As if it were alive, he rushed back to guard and was in front of him in an instant. Boom! The thick rock wall once again absorbed Brian's attack in time. The deep black hole in the center showed the huge damage caused by the blow just now. The sneak attack failed. Brian's face turned livid, and his eyes became more and more fierce. Even though you were able to bear all the previous blows, the next blow will probably penetrate those broken rocks along with your body. Ever dark fantasy wail? The skull cane exerted force again, with undercurrents surging and a blood-red beam of light wrapping around it, emitting magic ripples that were more bizarre than ever before, between the ripples flowing. The star points vaguely mixed with unstable energy collapsed, making a small and hoarse sound, like a ghost crying. Brian devoted almost all his magic power to strengthening the ever-dark fantasy. Rock and iron wall chain. Jula still insists on taking advantage of the sky with one move, insisting on summoning rock walls from the ground to defend. But realizing the danger of this attack, he also activated more magic power and summoned more than a dozen thick rock walls to block the front. Is this the only level? Brian sneered. After being strengthened, Changyan's fantasy was so powerful that it directly penetrated the rock wall with a muffled sound. But its momentum remained unabated, penetrating dozens of rock walls in a row. There was only the last barrier left in front of Jura. Brian's eyes shot out blood-red light, adding power to the magic. Boom! After the loud noise of the collision, the pressure of energy burst out. Even Gray and Mo Bai, who were watching the battle behind a large rock in the distance, could feel the fluctuation. At this moment, Jula no longer had any defensive measures in front of him and was directly exposed to his opponent. Gray was so anxious that he almost rushed forward, but Mo Bai had quick eyesight and quick hands and dragged him back. Gray was puzzled. What are you doing? The bald man can't stand it anymore. The bald uncle was naturally talking about Jula. Shung sure can't stand it anymore. Why are you going to do it? Mo Bai asked back. I can at least help him reinforce an ice wall. I told you watch carefully here. Brian can't be Jula's opponent. Mo Bai promised. Jula closed his eyes slightly, and the lines on his face became more compact. He took another half step forward, tightly protecting Sharia and Hot Eye behind him, and his body shone with brown magic power. The mantis arm is like a chariot under the dual shock of Brian's roar and Chang's fantasy offensive. Jula suddenly opened his eyes and waved his left arm in the air. His whole body was like a persevering Buddha, calm and powerful. The dark green dark energy wave that was originally moving forward was forced to change the trajectory of the attack by the terrifying magic power it erupted at the moment it was about to contact Jura. Directly bypassing the three people, they bombarded the slope behind them. All the trees on the slope fell down, and the rocks slid down, completely razing the place to the ground. Well, it's very powerful. It just didn't do any harm. What? The most powerful blow was directly deflected. Brian was shocked, and finally realized how powerful Jula was as the Holy Ten. He has no chance of winning. Brian then turned his heel 180 degrees and was about to get wet. But suddenly he felt a tremor under his feet. Everything from dust to gravel slowly floated up from the ground as if controlled by some force. Brian staggered a few steps in fear and tried to speed up to escape, but it was too late. Jula's strong voice sounded again. "The Overlord Rock is broken." The surrounding rubble was once again inspired, carrying potential energy and flying away together. The target of the shot was naturally Brian. Thousands of rock and soil particles accumulate. Suddenly, a stone mountain as tall as a person was formed, sealing Brian within it. But the movements in Jula's hands did not stop. As he put his palms together in front of his chest, not far away, a pair of transparent and illusory giant palms appeared on both sides of the stone mountain. They came together with huge power and shattered the originally stacked stone mountain in an instant. Brian's figure was exposed again, but after such an impact, his body was already scarred and his mouth was bleeding. It was difficult to stand up again. Seeing Jura displaying such tyrannical strength, Sharia and Hatai still felt quite shocked even though they had interacted with him before. And behind the stone, Mo Bai was not surprised by this result. He just poked Gray, who was also stunned by Jula. "Let's go, it's time for us to go out." After the battle, just as Jula regained his breath, he saw Mo Bai and Gray waving to him not far away. Mo Bai gave him a thumbs up and did not hesitate to praise him. "Uncle, we all saw the battle between you and Brian just now. It was very strong." "It's ridiculous," Jula responded humbly, suddenly remembering that Hatai had not yet explained the matter of turning from darkness to light, and immediately introduced, "Let me introduce you. This is Lord Hatai of the 6 Demon Generals. But now he has recovered his kindness and become an ally. He wants to work with us to prevent Nirvana." Hatai tilted his head slightly and added, "Actually, my real name is Richard." It's true, since Mo Bai had already explained the reason to Gray before, Gray didn't question it anymore. Just looking at the increasingly huge white light pillars soaring into the sky behind me, I felt an invisible pressure. Gray couldn't help but frown and said with a hint of sadness, "Speaking of which, Nirvana has already been opened?" Chapter 45, How to Crack Nirvana. When Jula heard this, there was a trace of remorse and helplessness between his brows. In the end, I should still be blamed for this. Before Jula finished speaking, a powerful burst of magical energy suddenly burst out from his side. "Watch out! The cave dragon's shield." Fortunately, Mo Bai had quick eyes and quick hands, and opened his giant shield in time to block. The strong shield was immediately shattered by the strong impact, but through the cracks, the direction of the source of the attack can be vaguely discerned. It was Brian, who was half dead after falling to the ground. Looking at his hand, the skull cane that was originally used to perform magic has been broken into pieces. It is not difficult to infer that he just wanted to make a final struggle by detonating the cane, but still failed. Brian's face suddenly showed the desolation that the situation was over. "It's a pity. I originally wanted to kill that traitor Hatai. In this case, the real president of the 6 Demon Generals will come and none of you can escape." When Jula heard this, he immediately shuddered. "What do you mean? The real president?" If the opponent also has a top-level magician sitting on the battlefield, even he is not completely sure of winning the battle. "It's okay, just think he farted." Mo Bai looked disapproving, and then said, "Gray, bring out the ice cubes and show him." "Okay." Gray greeted. 1 minute later, the solid ice cage was carried out from the grass next to it, and Lisa was made into an ice sculpture and preserved intact. Brian was completely dumbfounded. "Lisa? He was captured alive by you." Next to them, Jura and Sharia also slowly raised a question mark. "What are these people talking about? It seems that I'm not on the same page as them at all." "Let me explain," Hatai said. "The 6 generals of the 6 demons each have different prayers, corresponding to different seals, which are the black stripes on the face of the leader Brian. Once the 6 men are wiped out and the 6 prayers disappear, the seal of Brian's other personality will be lifted, and the true president of the 6 demon generals will appear. That's a scary guy who is keen on destroying all tangible things. Really?" Hotai's tone was also mixed with deep fear. Obviously, Wu's strength was too strong. But Mo Bai and the naked guy captured Lisa alive, so his prayers will not disappear. In addition, I was not attacked by a sneak attack. So guild leader Wu will never appear again. Really? Oh. After hearing this explanation, Jula and Sharia suddenly realized. Finally, I admired Mo Bai's brilliant methods from the bottom of my heart. The future life is formidable. It was indeed the wisest choice to believe in Mr. Mo Bai. Brian was equally surprised. These two people had just arrived. The capture of Lisa alive must have happened a long time ago. It could not have been Hot Eye, who was influenced by Nirvana. There is only one possibility. The secret about having no president was no longer a secret from the beginning. When did you know this, and how did you know this? Not only do I know this, I also know how to crack Nirvana. Mo Bai's calm words fell on the crowd like thunder. Except for Brian. Everyone had a look of ecstasy on their faces. Your Excellency, Mo Bai, are you saying that even how to reseal Nirvana is under your control? How could it be so mysterious? I'm not Zhuge Liang. Mo Bai curled his lips helplessly. Under the expectant eyes of everyone, he smiled again and asked Brian, I heard that you were very accomplished in the study of magic? There is something called the self-discipline collapse magic circle. You should have created it after studying. Brian was suddenly even more surprised. Was his background revealed just like that? If the secret about the Wu Guild Master was revealed by chance, then the fact that he created the self-discipline collapse magic circle was also known, so it absolutely cannot be an accident. This guy must be anything but simple. Due to the situation, Brian still answered bravely. Yes, I am the inventor of the self-discipline collapse magic circle. As long as you give me a certain amount of time to arrange it, the self-discipline collapse magic circle can theoretically destroy many solid defenses and even destroy the magic itself. Having said this, Brian suddenly raised his head and seemed to understand Mo Bai's thoughts. You want me to set up a self-discipline collapse magic circle on Nirvana? Clever. In exchange? What can you give me? You have no choice. If you don't, I'll kill you. Faced with Mo Bai's naked threat, Brian was speechless for a while. But then I thought again, even if Mo Bai really kills himself, Nirvana will not stop starting. At that time, I am afraid that the entire country will fall into turmoil, which will not do any good to Mo Bai. Thinking of this, Brian had another bad idea and said seriously, You can destroy Nirvana if you want me to, but I have a condition. You are not qualified to negotiate terms. Mo Bai did not give in at all. I can leave the rest of the 6 demon generals alone, but you must first let me go free. I told you, you are not qualified to negotiate terms. Please do so. Even if you kill me, Nirvana will still be activated as usual. Brian was not afraid of death, but he was sure that Mo Bai was just threatening and would never dare to kill him. After all, Nirvana still relies on one's own self-discipline to destroy the magic circle. In this case, let's see whether Nirvana starts first or whether I kill you first. Magic power gradually emerged from Mo Bai, and it seemed that he really had murderous intent. A drop of cold sweat fell from Brian's forehead. At this moment, he could only tell himself repeatedly, You can't give in, he doesn't dare to kill me. Thunder and arc slowly emerged. Mo Bai raised his right arm, and once he took action, Brian had to go directly to the King of Hell. The fist was about to land. Mo Bai suddenly felt a strong angina pectoris in his chest. Even if he used magic to suppress it, it would not help. What's going on? It seems like something dark is eating my heart. Seeing that, Mo Bai's back turned stooped. Jula and the others immediately sensed something unusual and surrounded him. Mo Bai? Gray flew to Mo Bai to check the situation, but unexpectedly discovered that something gray was scattering in Mo Bai's pupils. Before he could continue to observe, Mo Bai had stood up again. It's just that the movements are a little stiff. Gray looked at Mo Bai at this time and had an indescribable strange feeling. Mo Bai, I'm fine. Leave Brian to me, and I will find a way to do Nirvana. Gray, you come with me. Mo Bai had no expression on his face when he spoke. I can't see or hear any joy, anger, sorrow, or joy. It's like a machine, cold and mechanical. Jula also realized something was wrong, but before he could speak, Mo Bai had already grabbed Brian's collar and forcibly dragged him away. Gray hurriedly followed, but there was a murmur in his heart. Why does it feel like he has suddenly changed? Chapter 46, Sins of the Past. Mo Bai's murderous intention went to a remote forest. Mo Bai glanced around for a week before slamming Brian onto the boulder in front of him. Although the friction and bumps on his back were still painful, Brian still refused to cooperate, holding his head high and smiling ferociously. No matter how many times my answer is the same, unless I am released immediately, there is no way I can set up the self-discipline collapse magic circle to destroy Nirvana. Moreover, you don't have the permission of the Senate. If you dare to use some coercive measures, you will definitely be held accountable by the Senate. Ha. Brian's sinister laughter became more and more wild. But he didn't notice at all that Mo Bai's expression had changed drastically. At this moment, Mo Bai's voice was almost devoid of any emotion. Nirvana, if you are unwilling to destroy it, I have other ways to crack it. Now what I want to say is another thing. You only need to answer me yes or no. Brian immediately mocked. You have a way to stop Nirvana? What a joke. But the words are not finished yet. Brian suddenly felt a huge force grabbing his throat, preventing him from saying another word. Even breathing became extremely difficult. Brian's face became redder and redder, his eyes widened. And then he realized that Mo Bai had lifted himself off the ground with one hand, and his feet were already off the ground. I don't want to do it again. Now, you just have to answer yes or no. A mechanical and hollow sound lingered in my ears. Brian looked at Mo Bai in shock. Judging from his cold eyes and the force with which he pinched his neck, it was clear that he wanted to kill him. He is completely different from when he was near Nirvana. Out of fear. Yes. Brian struggled to squeeze out a word through his teeth. Mo Bai released his right hand expressionlessly, letting Brian, who had broken free, lie on the ground coughing loudly. Gray next to him was shocked. Is this still the Mo Bai he knew? In my impression, although Mo Bai is terrifying in strength, he is always cheerful. He always gets along well with the other members of the guild and the residents of Magnolia, although he sometimes gets into trouble. But it is absolutely impossible to be like this, as cold as a butcher. Mo Bai, what's wrong with you? Mo Bai didn't even turn his head to look at Gray. His eyes were still on Brian. Listen carefully to the question I asked Brian. It has something to do with you too. Me? Gray was startled. Mo Bai didn't answer anymore and lowered his eyes directly to question Brian in front of him. You were the director of the Magic Development Bureau, right? Yes. Mo Bai nodded slightly and then asked. During that time, you have been secretly abducting children and even using them for in vivo experiments, right? Brian's head shot up. How could he know this? There was a big explosion at the Magic Development Bureau that year. Logically speaking, all incriminating evidence had been destroyed. It was impossible for anyone to know, but this thought only passed by for a moment. When Brian saw Mo Bai urging him impatiently again, he still answered honestly, yes. Very good. Mo Bai paused and spoke again under the gaze of Gray and Brian. Only this time, the voice became slightly trembling. More than 10 years ago, a female wizard named Uru came to you and said that her daughter Eurudia was born with too much magic power and had a high fever. She begged for your help. Before Mo Bai finished speaking, the expression on Gray's face changed drastically. Mo Bai, did you just mention Ulu? Listen to me first. Mo Bai glanced at Gray indifferently and asked Brian again. At that time, as the director, you swore that the Magic Development Bureau could cure the child named Eurudia, but in fact you sent her for live experiments. When Uru found you again, you claimed that Eurudia was dead and even the body had been disposed of. That poor mother cried for a long time in the Magic Development Bureau, and her tears were almost gone. Little did she know that her daughter did not die, but continued to suffer your cruel and inhuman abuse. Is there anything wrong with what I said about all these things? Every time Mo Bai said a word, the panic and shock on Brian's face became more intense. The look in Mo Bai's eyes has changed dramatically at this moment. Who is this magician who came by air to reinforce the coalition forces? From the secret of the 6 demon generals having no president, to creating the self-disciplined collapse magic circle, and the ugly deeds he once did in the Magic Development Bureau. Why does he know everything clearly? Gray was also shocked. You are you. The Ulu mentioned by Mo Bai was none other than the master who taught him the ice modeling magic and had been dead for 10 years. When he was studying with Ulu as a child, Gray would often find Ulu secretly crying while hugging the little girl's clothes. It was also at that time that he learned that she had had a daughter. But I didn't expect to suffer such a disaster. Now, Mo Bai's goal has also been achieved, letting Gray hear that Brian personally admitted the evil things he had done to his master Ulu. Now it's time for Brian to meet the King of Hell. For a long time, Mo Bai gently waved his palm from Gray's eyes a few times. Gray. Obstructed view. Gray finally recovered from the shock, but there was still disbelief in his eyes. He raised his head and looked at Mo Bai blankly. Kill him. 3 faint words came out of Mo Bai's mouth. Brian was immediately frightened and shouted hurriedly. Wait a minute, I have answered all the questions according to your requirements. You can't. I never said I would let you go. Gray, kill him. Hearing Mo Bai's scolding again, an unknown fire suddenly rose in Gray's heart. Ulu, is it because of you that I lost my daughter? The power of frost suddenly exploded on Gray's body. The magic condenses on the right fist and left elbow joint, forming a sharp ice pick with killing intent. Ice blade 7 continuous dances. Gray shot forward, and the ice pick was already aimed at Brian's chest. But just before the stabbing, to everyone's surprise, the originally condensed magic power of the ice shape dissipated out of thin air. The ice pick is gone. The magic can't be used. Gray originally wanted to activate his power again, but the magic power in his body seemed to be exhausted and no longer obeyed his command. He subconsciously looked down and discovered the problem. At some point, there was a string of dark purple magic words on the ground beneath my feet. This kind of writing is not unfamiliar to him. He has seen similar forms of magic before during the fairy tale Civil War. Spell? It's the rules produced by this thing that restricted my actions just now. Brian was in a daze and his whole body was shaking. This life is temporarily restored. Mo Bai turned his gaze to the slope directly ahead, his brows furrowing tighter and tighter. The sound of neat footsteps reached my ears from that side. Preliminary judgment shows that the scale is at least 50 people. As the footsteps became heavier and heavier, a moment later, a uniformed team of magicians appeared in front of the 3 people, all wearing blue and white work uniforms. The leader wears glasses and looks upright. Walking in front of the 3 of them, the leader's eyes swept over them lightly, and he spoke meticulously. Let me introduce myself. I'm the captain of the 4th Force Supervision Force of the Magic Council, Laharl. This war is over, magicians of the Coalition. Please leave it to our council to deal with it. Mo Bai looked directly at Lahar, with fire almost burning in his eyes. These troublemakers showed up at the wrong time. However, even if the Speaker of the Senate comes today, Brian must die here. Chapter 47 Thunderous Means. Brian's death. The council. Brian seemed to grasp at straws for a moment, even though the Senate is here to catch itself. But I thought that if I actively plead guilty, I might get a chance to avoid death. And I might even find a chance to escape from prison and make a comeback in the future. It is obviously much better than being killed directly by Mo Bai and Gray here. Brian hurriedly asked for help. Save me quickly. I am willing to confess all the crimes of the 6 demon generals and am willing to repent. They will violate the rules of the Senate and kill people without permission. Lahar was unfazed when he heard this and turned to Mo Bai. Thank you for your contribution to the annihilation of the Dark Guild. However, the war is over. The destination of the 6 demon generals should be to go to the Senate to face trial. All their sins will be liquidated. Mo Bai naturally knew that with Brian's mind, he would be able to explain himself eloquently and try to avoid the death penalty. The Senate headquarters was previously blown up by Jelal and Arudia. Except for a few members of Congress, it can be seen how incompetent the current people in power are. Can't count on those people, and Mo Bai thought to himself. Since Gray can't take action anymore, I have to do it. Think of this. And Mo Bai picked up Brian's neck again and held it in his palm. Brian was now tortured to the point of being like a cripple, without any ability to resist. And Mo Bai looked at Laharl and said solemnly, What if I must kill him? Laharl spoke righteously. then you are determined to fight against the Senate. I will lead the army and send you to trial together." As Laharl waved his right hand down in the air, more than 50 magic guards of the Senate behind him showed off their weapons. The council's position is on the same side as that of the subordinate guilds, and I don't want to make the relationship with you too rigid. I hope you understand. Besides, with my magic here, you can't do anything in a short time. Use magic. What Lahar said was correct. Thanks to the supreme status of the Senate, he also enjoys the support of powerful magic tool Crystal as a law enforcer. With the help of crystals, the spells set up are enough to make the magician inside helpless in a short time. Let the criminal go now, and I can pretend that nothing happened. Lahar advised again. Mo Bai seemed deaf. Not only did he not stop, he strangled Brian's right hand even harder. It's like squeezing a little chicken. Brian's eyes bulged. He kicked his feet desperately and stretched out his hand to try to break away from Mo Bai's hand, but he couldn't do it at all. You are openly defying the orders of the Senate. Everyone be on alert." Lahar was shocked and immediately ordered the magic guards behind him to be ready to take coercive measures. Dozens of magic tools and weapons were all pointed in Mo Bai's direction, reflecting a penetrating light that converged in Mo Bai's eyes. Mo Bai finally spoke slowly, but there was a lot of teasing in his tone. "If it weren't for the magic items, your spell level would be far worse than fried from our guild." Under the gaze of everyone, a fiery red flame appeared faintly from Mo Bai's back, burning and beating little by little until it bloomed. And under his feet, the spell text that originally restricted the use of magic began to appear cracks at some point, and became more and more dense as time went by. Fight! The crisp crackling sound reached everyone's ears. The spell text was immediately destroyed, like a thin layer of shattered glass, which looked extremely fragile. Laharl and the troops of the Senate stared blankly at the scene that happened in front of them, with endless shock on their faces. How? How could it be? The spell doesn't work on him? There is only one possibility. This person's magic power has far exceeded the range set by the spell, even to the level of the Holy 10. When did Fairy Tale have such a scary guy? Is he younger than Jalal? Glancing at the people in the Senate, Mo Bai said calmly, "If you want to end up like Brian, just come over. I don't mind killing one more. Say the last word." Mo Bai no longer paid attention to their reactions. The real target was Brian. Brian's face was already ashen. The moment Mo Bai completely broke the spell, his hanging heart died. The appearance of the Senate gave him a brief glimpse of hope, but Mo Bai crushed this hope without mercy and threw him into the abyss again. Explosive flames suddenly ignited from Mo Bai's palm. Logically speaking, Brian was choked by Mo Bai's neck, so even if he died, only that part would be injured. But at this moment, he could clearly feel the severe burning pain coming from all over his body. Ah! A weak and shrill wail came from Brian's fragile throat. With difficulty, he moved his eyes downward, only to realize that the bright flames had spread to all parts of the torso and limbs, and even penetrated into the body. Thoracic cavity, abdominal cavity, and even everywhere in the body. Endless despair emerged from Brian's eyes. As Mo Bai's eyes flashed with torches again, the dragon-slaying power was activated, and a strong burning sensation invaded Brian's body again. He finally realized what Mo Bai wanted to do. Does this lunatic want to use flames to burn my magic power into nothingness before I die? Brian had long since lost the ability to speak again. Unprecedented pain swept through his body, making his consciousness blurry. His vision gradually darkened. Only at the end, Mo Bai's voice was faintly heard. "I really can't bear to leave you to those souls in the Senate. I'm sorry, you have to die here." The words fell. Brian finally let out a weak whimper, and then completely lost the breath of life. Mo Bai threw his body aside, as if throwing away garbage, and habitually clapped his hands to dust it off. What's strange is that Mo Bai's head was still aching a little before Brian's heartbeat stopped. At this moment, he is fully recovered. This comfortable feeling is like Huatu, using an invisible axe to split the skull and quietly remove the root of the disease. Feeling relaxed all over, Lahar and others in the Senate were all shocked by his ruthless tactics just now. His expression became more and more distorted and ugly, but his body didn't move at all. As for Gray, he had mixed feelings at this moment. He sat there blankly, silently casting his gaze towards the evening sky. The place fell into deathly silence. Mo Bai's mood slowly calmed down, and he began to think about the next plan. Now that the 6 demon generals are gone, Brian is dead, and the remaining 5 will be taken away by the council if nothing else happens. Speaking of which, the 5 of them have the same experience as Erza. They were all captured by the Tower of Paradise when they were children. They are not hopeless. If you can help, why don't you help them? But now that there are spies from the Senate everywhere, it's really inconvenient to take action. Maybe we have to go to prison with them. Chapter 48, can we have a good negotiation now? For a long time, Mo Bai, Gray. Familiar shouts came from afar. Just by listening to the voice, Mo Bai can tell who it is. Erza? Natsu, Lucy, and Wendy. It seems like everything is going well for you. As those friendly figures appeared in sight and kept running towards him, Mo Bai smiled brightly at his friends as usual. The bloody executioner image just now is gone forever. Mo Bai glanced at Brian's remains. There are only 2 black stripes left on the face, which correspond to the restored hot eye and the frozen Lisa. It seems that the other members of the 6 demon generals have been cleared out. The only thing that could make Mo Bai slightly worried was Erza, who was poisoned by snake venom after being attacked by Cobra. Does the poison arm still hurt? Hearing Mo Bai's question, Erza smiled. It's okay, thanks to Wendy's healing magic. Healing magic is an extremely rare magic in the entire wizarding world. Almost lost. Those who master it are even rarer. After hearing this, Mo Bai immediately turned his attention to the blue-haired girl, Wendy, next to him, leaned down and touched her head. Thank you, Wendy. No, this is what I should do. Wendy, who has always been introverted, was a little overwhelmed by Mo Bai's intimate behavior. And Mo Bai also smelled a hint of the same original magic from Wendy. After all, they're both dragon slayers. Wendy's attribute is the sky, and she was raised by the dragon Grandine. However, like Natsu and Gajeel, the dragons that raised them disappeared mysteriously on July 7th, 777. The dragon-slaying magic crystal in Mo Bai's body does have properties similar to Wendy's, namely Storm, but the essential difference between the two is still very obvious. Wendy can replenish her magic power by feeding on the air, while Mo Bai needs to swallow the powerful hurricane. Wendy can control healing magic through the power of Dragon Slayer in the sky, and Mo Bai can use this to obtain the magic of flying, Storm Dragon Wings. What a pity. I originally wanted to have a big fight, but I didn't expect that the most powerful guy has been defeated by you. Naza's complaint brought Mo Bai's thoughts back to reality. Mo Bai looked Nazi up and down and couldn't help but wonder. No, buddy. Why are everyone else more or less injured, but you don't seem to have even consumed your magic power? Natsu confidently passed the blame to Lucy. I originally met that so-and-so angel, but I accidentally boarded a strange vehicle and fainted. It's all because Lucy didn't warn me. Can you blame me? Lucy protested. There was another round of noise and pleasantries, and the atmosphere seemed to be back to the fairy tale guild. As for the group of people in the Senate behind Mo Bai, Natsu and the others are no strangers either. He often gets into trouble when he goes on missions, and then he is invited to tea by the Senate. Natsu naturally didn't like this group of people, so he chose to ignore them. For a long time, seeing that nothing happened, Mo Bai turned around and asked his friends to leave together. But at this moment, Lahar, the captain of the Senate team who had been silent for a long time, finally couldn't help but have an attack. As a law enforcer, he watched Mo Bai kill important suspects with thunder in front of him. Naturally, you can't let him go so easily. Lahar then shouted an order to the soldiers behind him. In the name of the Senate, arrest Mo Bai immediately. If anyone else resists, arrest them too. Yes. Hearing the shouts, several people who had turned around suddenly turned back, until he saw the magic warriors actually using their magic weapons and slowly approaching him. Only then did they believe that they had heard correctly. The Senate wants to arrest Mo Bai? Lucy suddenly said anxiously. No. What does this mean? Aren't they here to capture the 6 demon generals? Mo Bai actually made it clear about killing Brian for a while, so he had to blame it on Gray. Well, it's a bit complicated. Why don't you let Gray explain it to you? Erza noticed something fishy and immediately turned around and asked, Gray, what happened? Ah. Gray also became hesitant at this time. However, Lahar didn't seem ready to give them a chance to communicate. Superior, as the attack command was issued again, the magic soldiers in the front row rushed forward with swords, guns, swords, and halberds. A figure suddenly flashed in front of several people's eyes. Looking closely, he realized that it was Natsu, who couldn't hold himself back any longer. The scarf tied around his neck was still fluttering in the wind. Natsu's eyes flashed with excitement and warlikeness, and he couldn't wait to face the battle. No matter what the reason is, if you want to take away your guild mates, I won't agree. Besides, today's battle with the 6 demon generals was not fun at all, so I can give it a try with you guys. I'm on fire. With his feet kicking out hard, Natsu's figure suddenly shot out, and he raised his double fire fists and directly hit the faces of the magic soldiers on both sides. Although due to the strength of the magic power itself, Natsu's fire dragon iron fist does not seem to be as powerful as Mo Bai. But after all, his is the orthodoxy. The soldiers behind saw this and wanted to step forward to help, but suddenly felt a scorching heat that was still rising. Looking at Natsu again, the bright flames had evolved from his fists to wrapping around his whole body. The brilliant flame of the fire dragon. Natsu took a deep breath and gathered the flames around him into his hands again. The flames continued to expand, gradually forming a huge fireball as tall as a person, which was thrown forward by Natsu. With a roar, the fireball flew forward like a burning meteor, carrying blazing high temperature and powerful impact. Wherever it passes, all vegetation will be instantly burned to ashes. As for the magic soldiers who were hit, they were severely burned and screamed in pain. Some of them continued to have flames on their bodies, but they could not be extinguished no matter how hard they rolled. But Natsu obviously hasn't had enough. After scanning for a week, he shook his neck and prepared for a second battle. The magic warriors couldn't help but take half a step back. Erza stared at Natsu's figure and could only smile bitterly, but did not do anything to stop him. Leave it to normal times. If Natsu dares to confront the council like this, or even attack the opponent's troops, there is no doubt that Erza will definitely stop him. But this time is an exception. Under unknown circumstances, the Senate is about to arrest Mo Bai. Erza couldn't tolerate it either. Now, Mo Bai looked at the backs of his friends standing in front of him. Especially Natsu. Mo Kai stood at the front, trying to protect himself from being taken away. Mo Bai had a completely different plan in mind. He was going to the Senate prison to do something very important. However, the prison has always been tightly guarded, and it is really difficult for ordinary people to sneak in without permission. But then again, isn't Lahar trying to take himself to trial at this moment? If he approves his arrest, wouldn't he be able to go to jail as a matter of course? So, now I have to find a reason to go back to the Senate? 3 minutes later, Natsu curled his lips in disinterest before putting away the flame aura on his body. On the field, there are only a handful of magic soldiers who can still stand up. Seeing this, Erza finally stepped forward, gently stopped Natsu, who was still thinking, and said sternly to Lahar in the distance, "I'm sorry. We can't accept that the Senate took away our companions for no reason. Can we talk about it now?" Lahar looked around, his face covered with black lines. Almost all the people he brought were knocked down by Nezuko. Only then did you think of communicating? There is no other way. After all, the gap in strength is there, so I can only endure it. Lahar deliberately kept his tone calm. Did you see the mummy next to him? He is Brian, the president of the 6 demon generals, and he has been killed by Mo Bai. Everyone looked in the direction of his finger and found a charcoal-like mummy next to the stone. It's almost the same gray-black color as stone, and has its own protective color. You really can't tell the difference without looking carefully. The death was quite miserable. Mo Bai did this? Chapter 49 Sincerity is a must-win skill. But what is always sincerity? Erza just glanced at it lightly and continued to argue with Lahar. The crusade against the 6 demon generals was originally the mission given to our coalition forces by the Senate. If Mo Bai did not use all his strength during the battle, I am afraid he will be the one who falls. It's just a mistake that failed to save Brian's life. I think that shouldn't be enough reason to arrest Mo Bai, right? Erza obviously didn't know that it was Jura who was fighting with Brian. But in the picture in her mind, Mo Bai must have had a fierce battle with Brian before. As the leader of the 6 demon generals, Brian's strength should not be underestimated. So Mo Bai accidentally struck him too hard and burned him to ashes. Hearing what Erza said, Mo Bai suddenly felt guilty. After all, Laharl still couldn't control his emotions. He shouted regardless of his demeanor. Do you know what just happened? Brian has obviously lost the ability to fight. I was going to take him to the Senate for trial. Mo Bai. Mo Bai can't listen to what I say at all. He's like a cold-blooded killer. Killer, do you understand? He burned all of Brian's magic power right in front of me and then killed him. Erza's pupil shrank. Before she could respond, Natsu next to him made a disdainful sound from his nose. Teichu doesn't know that your council is famous for arresting people at random. I don't believe what you say. Laharl responded angrily. Ask him yourself. Just ask. Natsu looked indifferent and even stretched out his little finger to pick his nose, then turned to look at Mo Bai. Hey, Mo Bai, is what that guy from the Senate said true? Did you really kill Brian with that method? In full view, Mo Bai seemed a little shy, scratched his head in embarrassment, and then said, well, actually, what he said is indeed correct. Clam? The people who had been protecting Mo Bai tightly were suddenly dumbfounded. In this way, it is indeed reasonable for the Senate to arrest him. Mo Bai's answer surprised even Lahar. When he saw the magic soldiers falling down one after another, he realized that even with force, it would be difficult to take Mo Bai away. I didn't expect him to be quite honest, and didn't even try to deny it. Natsu turned his head and winked wildly, and whispered, what kind of plan are you doing? So you are not afraid that the Senate will really arrest you and send you to jail? But the fact is that I did kill Brian in front of him. Don't worry, I have my own plan. Mo Bai did not deliberately lower his volume, and his sincere voice was enough for everyone present to hear. In an instant, both Natsu's and Laharl's faces showed a bit of shock when faced with this sudden reversal. For Mo Bai himself, it is certainly not as simple as throwing himself into a trap. He still had to go to the Senate prison to do an important thing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have admitted it so simply. Although sincerity is always a surefire skill, being too sincere all the time can only mean. The others looked at Erza, who looked embarrassed. Mo Bai spread his hands helplessly and said half-jokingly, just think of it as a free trip to the prison. If you haven't even entered the Senate, wouldn't it be a waste to join Fairy Tail? There's really nothing wrong with that. Whether it's Natsu or Gray, or even Erza, or other powerful magicians in the Fairy Tail Guild. He often made mistakes at work, accidentally destroying half of the town, and was subsequently invited to tea by the Senate. In the end, it was President Makarov who had to fish them out. But in Makarov's view, being restricted by these rules will make it impossible to improve your magical attainments. He has also been encouraging everyone to stop caring about these things and to always stick to their own path. To put it another way, even if some old bastards in the Senate who usually dislike Fairy Tail insist on spending a few years in jail, when the time comes, Mo Bai won't mind doing what Jalal once did and blowing up the Senate. Thinking of this, Mo Bai even joked, I will return to the guild in a few days. Don't forget to prepare a banquet to welcome me then. Seeing no one responded, Mo Bai shrugged, gently leaned next to Erza and whispered, don't worry, as long as I want to come out, the door of the Senate will not be able to close me. As soon as she finished speaking, before Erza could say anything else, behind everyone, the already violent Nirvana erupted again, and several energy beams quickly snaked up and intertwined. The white light pillar reaching the sky was ready to move, making bursts of hissing sounds, as if it would break through the sky at any time. Mo Bai looked back and said immediately, oh yes, I almost forgot about Nirvana. Now it is only the first stage. After a while, it will completely spread out from the ground and produce 6 sucker-like mechanical tentacles. When each of you goes to a tentacle and destroys the energy supply magic crystal that controls the tentacles, Nirvana will be completely destroyed. There was a complex and subtle meaning in Erza's beautiful eyes. It seems that from the first time they met, Mo Bai was always surprising her. Every seemingly outrageous operation is inexplicably reliable. Did you just mention the solution to the super magical nirvana in an understatement? Although it has not been confirmed yet, based on my understanding of him, it is impossible to just talk nonsense. However, at this moment, he was staring at the thin back of Mo Bai, who was moving step by step towards the direction of the Senate army. What occupied Erza's heart the most was still her concern and worry about him. Looking at Mo Bai, he looked innocent and obedient. Laharl still couldn't let go of his inner guard and angrily summoned the magic warrior who had narrowly escaped Natsu's attack. Put the magic shackles on him. Magic shackles, as a top magic item that only the council has the authority to use, are often used on criminals with powerful magic powers. Once locked by it, most of the magic power in the body can no longer be manipulated, just like a muggle. Mo Bai raised his eyebrows slightly. Isn't this unnecessary? I'm sorry. This is the rule of the Senate. We are only acting in accordance with the rules. Please cooperate. The two magic soldiers who were ordered whispered to Mo Bai in a semi-begging tone. They also saw Mo Bai's terrifying strength, so they naturally did not dare to provoke him. But they found it difficult to disobey the leader's orders. Hey, forget it, forget it. Mo Bai has always been soft-spoken. He didn't want to embarrass these two hard-working workers, so he simply stretched out his arms and exposed his wrists. Bite! Shackles to death. Lahar was still worried, so he leaned forward and looked at it for a while, and then said to Mo Bai with some doubts. Try to activate the magic power in your body and see if you can still release magic. Just try it. Before Lahar could answer, Mo Bai activated 8 dragon-slaying magic crystals at the same time, as if he had just arrived at the sea of gas trees to show his magic power to Leo and the others. The magic shackles reacted immediately and sounded a harsh alarm, but Mo Bai didn't show any magical aura. Rahal breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I specially selected the highest quality magic shackles before I came here. Unless they are a strong man like Jula, who is at the level of the Holy 10, it is impossible for others to break free. Boom! An explosion suddenly sounded. Under everyone's shocked gaze, energy beams of 8 different colors suddenly appeared all over Mo Bai, wrapping him tightly in it. And his momentum was particularly magnificent. Look at the ground again. The magical shackles have become a piece of scrap metal, without any magic fluctuations. Mo Bai sighed, showed a smile that was uglier than crying, and couldn't help but ask soul torture. It seems that the council has been short of funds recently. It has begun to produce fake and shoddy products. Erza and Lucy Wendy are professionally trained and generally don't laugh. Unless you can't help it. Natsu is different. He never restrains his excitement. Seeing Lahar's deflated appearance, he covered his stomach with one hand and beat the ground with the other, laughing more wildly than anyone else. Ta snore. Lahar lost face, but had no choice but to do it. His face was bruised and black, so he had no choice but to angrily order the magic soldiers under his command to retreat. Take Brian's body and other members of the 6 demon generals and return to the council. Chapter 50, that's it for now. Let's eat first. Magnolia, Fairy Tale. Hello everyone, I am Wendy. I can use some healing auxiliary magic. Under the leadership of Erza, Wendy stood next to Carla a little shyly and introduced herself to the other members of the guild. 2 days have passed since the battle between the 6 demon generals. Everyone sealed Nirvana and originally went to the guild closest to the Gas Tree Sea, the Demon Cat's Lodge where Wendy was to take a short rest, but unexpectedly discovered a bigger secret. The entire guild of Demon Cat's Place is a magical illusion created by its president Robin Liu. Robin Liu's body has long since disappeared over time and only exists temporarily in the world as a missing body. The whole purpose of the guild's existence is just to accompany Wendy through the loneliest time. A guild that only exists for one person. After seeing that Wendy already had a reliable partner by her side, Robin Liu was finally relieved and could leave safely. Seeing her former partner's body disappearing, Wendy couldn't accept this fact for a while, hugging her head and crying. Erza reached out to help at this time and took the initiative to invite Wendy and Carla to join Fairy Tale's new family. Wendy still acted a little shy in front of everyone. Please take care of me. Girls joined the club. Looking around always attracts a lot of attention. In this kind of situation where they can join in the fun, the 2 old fat guys Macau and Wakaba always appeared to be particularly active. This time, Wakaba didn't even take off the pipe from his mouth. He walked directly in front of Wendy and asked questions. "So cute, how old are you, little girl? Why don't we celebrate by opening Wendy's welcome party? Hey, why is there a female happy next to me?" Seeing Wendy choke on her cigarette twice, she was even more confused by them. Erza understood immediately. Bang Bang punched the two idiots in the forehead and rescued Wendy. "Be careful with me." "Yes," until he took Wendy to complete the membership procedures and engraved the coat of arms on her right shoulder. Only then did everyone discuss the crusade against the 6 demon generals. So, the 6 demon generals have been completely defeated this time, right? At least we can live a peaceful life for a while, as expected of the guild's strongest team. By the way, I remember that Mo Bai also went to find you. Why didn't he come back together? Could it be that he was lost? I heard from Lucy that he was taken away by the Senate because of his negligent actions during the battle. How miserable. But it's okay. Aren't Natsu and Erza often invited to tea because they accidentally destroyed half the town? And every time, the president can bring them out. I think so too. The president must have a way. The members of Fairy Tail seem to have an innate sense of relaxation. In other guilds, if someone was targeted by the council every day, he would probably be in bad luck. But at Fairy Tail, it seems to have become a common occurrence. And just when everyone was talking enthusiastically in the hall, the atmosphere in the room at the end of the attic was very heavy at the moment. There were only 2 people in the room, Makarov and Gray. There was silence for a long time. Gray finally recovered from the gloom and told Makarov what happened that day. "Old man Mo Bai, it was because of my past that he killed Brian in that way." No matter the details, Gray told everything about Mo Bai. From the first time Mo Bai told the secret of the 6 Demon Generals Guild Wu, to when he designed the 2 members of Lien Klisa and Cobra. Later, he suddenly sexually assaulted Brian and killed Brian with thunder. And before leaving, he explained the final method of destruction of Nirvana. I always feel that Mo Bai seems to have some kind of prophetic ability. Not only can he see our past, but he can even know some information that is simply unobtainable. After telling all his thoughts, Gray felt much happier. Makarov frowned, with wrinkles on his face, one layer after another, and said, "This is also my fault. Ever since Mo Bai joined the guild, I haven't learned much about his past." Makarov sighed, stood up from the chair, and walked out. "That's it for now. Let's eat first." Gray slowly typed a question mark and called Makarov again. "Old man? Clam." Makarov turned his head impatiently. Gray hesitated and asked, "Mo Bai, can you find a way to get him out of the Senate? Really, every time there's a problem, I have to go to the Senate to pick someone up. Where can I put my old face? Let him stay in jail for a while." Makarov shouted dissatisfied, opened the door, and walked out. However, a smile of relief and hope slowly appeared on Gray's face. Even though Makarov said he doesn't care about Mo Bai. In fact, every time they got into trouble and were taken away by the Senate, Makarov always looked indifferent, but he was able to get them out in the end. It seems that Mo Bai's matter is stable this time. Chapter 51, Heartfelt Words. The sun is gradually setting in the west. The last ray of residual light hit the iron window, casting the shadow of the long slanting railing into the closed cell. The light was eaten away bit by bit until night fell. This is the temporary prison of the Senate, specially used to hold criminal wizards who have not yet been tried. It was here that Mo Bai and 5 people from the 6 demon generals were brought. Mo Bai tilted his head. Looking through the corner of the window, he could vaguely see the twinkling stars. The feeling of losing freedom is really uncomfortable. Tomorrow is the day of judgment. It seems that we must act tonight. But there is a saying, although being in jail is depressing, but in such a quiet and lonely environment, Mo Bai was finally able to calm down and think, repeatedly rehearsing the scene in which he killed Brian. Finally came to an absurd conclusion. How ridiculous is it? When this idea came to his mind, Mo Bai even made himself laugh. At that time, I was still thinking that Nirvana would affect at least 2 people, one light and one dark at the same time. If Hot Eye returns to kindness, there should be others who will be affected. I never thought that that person would be me. Perhaps it's because I'm traveling with Gray. When I see him, I think of his master URU, who was unhappy, And naturally, I transferred my hatred to the culprit, Brian. Nirvana will affect people who are on the edge of light and darkness. And then, the target was locked on me. But Mo Bai asked himself again at this moment. Even if he wasn't affected by Nirvana, he still wouldn't let Brian live. It was just to save some trouble, and to completely destroy Nirvana once and for all in the first stage of its opening, that I got entangled with Brian. This was already doomed when Mo Bai first went to the gas tree sea. Nirvana was just a catalyst, making him more decisive and cold-blooded. But now that Brian is dead, Mo Bai guesses that Nirvana will also be destroyed by Jula and the others. It can be said that we have reached the same destination through different paths. Mo Bai's eyes returned to the corridor outside the cell, and he began to plan a complete action plan in his mind. Although this is just a temporary prison similar to a detention center, the defense is not lax at all. Not only were each detainee put on magic shackles that restricted magic power, but there were also invisible magic barriers set up on the cell doors. Mo Bai also roughly estimated that the resistance of this barrier was dozens of times higher than that of the magic shackles that he had previously destroyed. It is difficult to move, no matter what. Tonight is the last chance. Just as Mo Bai was thinking about how to take action, outside the corridor, footsteps suddenly came, and they seemed to be coming in his direction, getting closer and closer, until he stopped in front of the prison door. He was a jailer dressed similar to Laharl. The jailer looked at Mo Bai, who was sitting leaning against the wall, checked it again with the record book in his hand, and then said slightly irritably, "Suspect number 6, Mo Bai. Someone wants to see you." "See me?" Mo Bai was stunned, and then saw the jailer take out a light blue crystal ball from his waist and pour magic power into it. A ray of light suddenly floated out of the ball, shining on the cell door between the two of them. The originally attached magic barrier suddenly appeared, taking on the shape of a purple crystal chain, wrapping around the railing. The key to lifting the magic barrier. Mo Bai rubbed his chin with the tiger's mouth, and while he was thinking, the chain suddenly faded until it disappeared again. Crunch! The door opened. "Let's go?" "It's you fairy tale wizards who make trouble all day long and have nothing to do." The jailer said something strangely, and Mo Bai pretended to remain silent. He kept following the jailer and walked slowly through the dark and narrow corridor. Mo Bai lowered his head to look at the magical shackles still on his wrists. This thing is exactly the same model as last time. Maybe Laharl and the jailer failed to communicate well? The prison doesn't seem to know that the magic shackles don't work on them. The jailer was walking in front, but he didn't notice the threat at all and didn't believe that Mo Bai's magic power was enough to force him to break free. Mo Bai thought to himself, however, this is a good way to hide from others. Until the room at the end of the line. The jailer pushed the wooden door open, and Mo Bai stuck his head out, and at a glance he recognized the short old man sitting opposite from the narrow room. The old man frowned with a bitter face and closed his eyes to rest. After hearing the sound, he narrowed his eyes a little and heard a cold snort coming from his nose. Mo Bai turned and left, not used to it at all. The old man's eyes suddenly opened. His butt jumped up from the chair, and he jumped like a thunderbolt. "Come back! Are you going to piss me off, you little brat?" Mo Bai rolled his eyes, turned his head back, and said helplessly, "President, it's late at night. If you have anything to do, please tell me as soon as possible. I'm in a hurry to go back to sleep." The person who came was none other than Makarov, the president of Fairy Tale. "Sit down first." Mo Bai's nonchalant attitude. Makarov glared at him fiercely, grabbed the cup in front of him, and drank the bitter tea in one gulp. After he calmed down a bit, he spoke again. "About the 6 demon generals. Are you making quite a fuss? Have you been detained for 2 days?" Mo Bai shrugged and made a face. "Non-committal," Makarov added. "As for Nirvana, Erza, they have successfully solved it according to your method. In addition, there seems to be some problems with the Allied Forces Demon Cat's home guild. Wendy and Carla, your allies who fought alongside you, have also joined our guild." Mo Bai smiled slightly. "That's good. These things are to be expected." However, Makarov tried every means to get this rare opportunity to visit the prison late at night from the Senate, and it was obviously not here to discuss this. Tactics coughed twice and quickly got to the point. "I've already heard what Gray and Erza said. Mo Bai, you seem to know something about the past of each of them?" And when fighting against the 6 demon generals, the beneficial information you have far exceeds that of the Intelligence Bureau of the Senate, including everything about super magic nirvana. Of course, this is not to doubt you. You can protect your companions well. As the president, I am very proud of you. But if it's convenient, I still want to hear your explanation of these things. And what happened to you before joining the guild? As soon as Makarov finished speaking, the corners of his mouth twitched unnaturally to the side. Mo Bai looked at it from the side and understood immediately. In the corner of the interrogation room, there were 2 guards from the Senate. All conversations are heard by them. But even if Makarov didn't remind him, Mo Bai had already paid attention. When he first entered the room and saw Makarov, he turned around and left. This was also done to confuse the council's attention. Think of it as tomorrow is the day of judgment. What you say next may directly affect the outcome of tomorrow's trial. After realizing this, Mo Bai looked into Makarov's deep eyes, pondered for a moment, and spoke slowly. I grew up in an orphanage and didn't have many friends. Later in my work and life, I was always alone. Makarov was startled. I never expected that Mo Bai would have such an experience. Regarding this point, it is really not Mo Bai's fictitious nonsense. Before traveling to this time, due to family reasons, he had always been used to being alone and rarely communicated with others. However, Mo Bai did not have any negative emotions because of this, and he was quite happy and relaxed. It's time to eat, it's time to sleep, it's time to play with the Holy Grail. Over time, this melancholy character developed. Recalling his experiences before time travel, Mo Bai's eyes gradually gained some warmth. It wasn't until I met Fairy Tail. I didn't know that there was a place called the Guild, which could become my warmest family. As for the information obtained, President, you can understand it as my minor magic which can see people's past, even some silent truths. Regarding the matter of time travel, it is really difficult to explain for a while. What's more, it's even more nonsense when it's being monitored by the Senate. And Mo Bai could only call it some kind of special magical power. Makarov, who was sitting opposite, suddenly grinned. I understand. Thank you for your honesty. Get the answers you want. Makarov then jumped off his chair, walked past Mo Bai, and headed for the door. Before leaving the house, he deliberately stopped and turned around and said, Mo Bai, as the president of the guild, I swear here that I will never doubt your loyalty and love for the guild. Besides, it's best not to take the content of this conversation to heart. Mo Bai also smiled back. I see. Chapter 52 Night Operation. Makarov is gone. Mo Bai still wears magic shackles on his wrists that have no effect on him. Follow the jailer and return to the corridor. When you reach a certain corner, you will soon arrive at your original cell. Mo Bai suddenly asked, Brother Jailer, did the magic ball you just used to open the magic barrier open all prisons? Or can it only open my cell door? Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. It's just the people in your guild who do the most shit. The jailer was stunned for a moment, then scolded him coldly. Mo Bai was helpless. It seemed that this guy didn't intend to cooperate well. Then the function of this magic crystal ball can only be tried by yourself. Brother Jailer, what happened again? The jailer turned around again impatiently, showing a bit of sullenness. It's okay, just make a counterattack. As soon as Mo Bai finished speaking, the colorful array suddenly appeared under his feet, and energy surged. Under the frightened gaze of the jailer, the magic shackles suddenly burst from Mo Bai's wrists, and the majestic magic power that broke through the shackles instantly set off the dragon-slaying pressure. Someone is coming. The jailer was about to call for help, but was hit in the chest by a palm and immediately fell to the ground unconscious. Mo Bai quickly suppressed the magical aura on his body. Listen carefully. After making sure that he did not hear the sound of other guards moving, Mo Bai bent down to pick up the fallen crystal ball, looked towards the corridor on the other side, and murmured, As for the 5 of them, I remember they were locked up at the other end, right? What Mo Bai needs to do next is to release the remaining 5 members of the 6 demon generals who were arrested a few days ago. The reason why I chose to act now is not on the way to escort the suspect in the Senate. First of all, Mo Bai did not want to cause trouble, and dozens of pairs of eyes were stared at by the council on the way to escort. If he acted rashly, he would risk exposing himself. Secondly, It can also give several members of the 6 demon generals 3 days of quiet time to settle in prison. Let them think carefully about where to go for the rest of their lives after breaking away from Brian's control. At the same time, on the west side of the temporary prison, in the largest cell, the 5 generals of the 6 demons each leaned on one side and chatted. Tomorrow is the day of judgment. I wonder what the outcome will be. Midnight took over the conversation and said semi-self-deprecatingly, basically, I will stay here forever and not be able to get out. Relax. At least you can have a good sleep. Angel, how is your injury? It's not good at all. Wearing these shackles, the magic power cannot be recovered at all, and the wound healing is also slowed down. Angel was the most seriously injured among the others. Although he didn't meet Mo Bai, he was hit hard with super magic by Lucy, who had mastered the history of super magic star map. As for magicians, although their injuries heal faster than ordinary people, this is also based on the premise of nourishing them with magic power. Being imprisoned by the magic shackles, Angel is still in a half-health state until now. Hatai smiled bitterly and turned his gaze aside. How are you, Cobra? No one responded. Cobra? Hotai's voice was very high, and Cobra's hearing was extremely sharp, so it was impossible not to hear the voice calling him. Stop shouting. Just let him be quiet. He has been like this since yesterday, Angel advised. Cobra's eyes were open, but they looked very dull, and his lips kept trembling, as if he was mumbling something. Cubelios, that's it. Just wait for the trial tomorrow. If nothing happens, we will be moved to the prison and held separately after tomorrow. Good night. Midnight yawned and lay down directly. 3 seconds later, the sound of deep sleep filled the entire cell. Etc. Cobra, who was sitting there blankly, suddenly narrowed his pupils and shouted out. Midnight was awakened and shouted dissatisfied. What are you making a noise about? Are you still allowed to sleep? Cobra, however, rolled around and moved his body to the cell door, trying his best to look out. It's unmistakable. It's him. Why did he come here? Naturally, the other 4 people did not have the keen senses of Cobra's dragon slayer. They couldn't help but wonder. Who are you talking about? He was talking about me. Outside the iron bars of the cell, a joking voice suddenly sounded. Immediately, a golden thunderbolt flashed across their eyes, and the flash dissipated, allowing the 5 of them to see each other's faces clearly. It's you. Lisa and Cobra, who had fought with Mo Bai, were the first to recognize him. Cobra had sensed it before and had less surprise on his face. Hot Eye also had a relationship with Mo Bai and introduced them to Midnight and Lisa. This is the mage from Fairy Tale, little friend Mo Bai. His strength is not inferior to Mr. Jura of the Holy Ten. Really, Mo Bai ignored the reactions of the 5 people and activated the magic ball in his right hand. The magic ball flashed like before, shining on the cell door. But the invisible purple chain did not appear. Mo Bai frowned. It seems that this thing is not universal. It can only open my cell door. What the hell are you doing here? Faced with the question, Mo Bai still did not answer directly. Instead, he closed his eyes. Directly activate the dragon-slaying crystal of the 3 elements of wind, fire, and dragon in the body. Since the key can't open it, we can only use brute force to break in. Different magic powers turned into energy beams of different colors and floated out of the body, wrapping around both arms. Feeling the subtle changes in the dragon-slaying power. When the 3 powers resonated, Mo Bai suddenly opened his eyes and waved his arms to pour out all the fused magic power. The secret of dragon slaying. Dragon sings for thousands of years. Since the first release of the 3 dragon secrets in the Tower of Paradise. After this period of continuous training and improvement in battle, the power exerted by Mo Bai has also been further improved. In addition to the original terrifying destructive power, Mo Bai also clearly saw the shadow of a giant dragon flashing in front of him. It's just that this giant dragon is too illusory and short-lived, and it has disappeared before careful observation. Even though they were separated by a magical barrier, the 5 members of the 6 demon generals could still feel considerable pressure. How could it be? Is he here to kill us? Why? Damn it. It's all the fault of these damn magic shackles. Otherwise, I could at least resist. But with the magic barrier at the outer door, He can't come in easily. The words just fell. As the dragon's phantom hit the prison door and disappeared, a huge wave of magic power erupted. In an instant, the magical shackles on the wrists of the 5 people suddenly burst apart. What? Withstanding the pressure, he looked up at the prison door again. At some point, the dark purple chains circling around them were exposed to sight, causing dense cracks under the constant pressure of magic power. In the end, it became fragmented under the gaze of several people. Lost the protection of the barrier. Mo Bai kicked open the iron door, looked around the cell, and said loudly, "Has your magic power been restored? If you don't want to stay here forever, just come with me." You. Only then did the 5 people realize that Mo Bai was not here to kill them at all, but to take them out of the cage. Walk. Mo Bai's figure turned into a bolt of lightning again and shot straight away in the direction it came from. The movement of the dragon-slaying mystery that had just been used to forcibly break through the magic barrier was too loud, and the sound of hurried footsteps upstairs and downstairs could clearly be heard. If I don't hurry up and leave, I'm afraid I won't be able to leave. After a brief hesitation, the 5 of them gritted their teeth and followed Mo Bai's pace together. Chapter 53 Prison Break. Mo Bai's plan. Mo Bai and the others are on the 2nd floor. The noisy footsteps around him became heavier and heavier. When he walked to the corner of the stairs, his keen sense of hearing told Mo Bai that as soon as he got downstairs, he would be surrounded by people. The earth dragon's crack. Mo Bai simply struck first, and before the opponent came into sight, he slammed his fists on the ground, creating a thick black crack. The crack spread all the way down the stairs, knocking back the guards who were about to go to the 2nd floor. Wah! The wings of the storm dragon appear, coupled with the increase in speed caused by the power of lightning. Mo Bai's figure has become somewhat phantom due to the high speed. But just now, Mo Bai broke the ground into pieces and raised dust to a certain extent, blocking everyone's sight. So much so that when he passed by the stairs, the guards passing by didn't even notice him, and only saw the 5 generals of the 6 demons following him. The guards panicked. Six demon generals have escaped from prison. Are you sure you saw clearly? How did they escape? I don't know either. The magic shackles on their hands were untied at some point, and the magic barrier was also inexplicably broken. Don't be stunned. Go to the main entrance immediately. That's the only way out. The walls of the prison are made of special anti-magic materials. Mo Bai's dragon-slaying mystery has been used to break the 6 demon generals' prison door. There is no way to force a second release at the moment, so he chooses the nearest main entrance as the exit. Just as he led the 6 demon generals on a rampage, they had reached the last corridor. Only then did we realize that both sides of the corridor were already filled with heavily prepared defenders. It doesn't matter to the 6 demon generals, since they have been discovered to have escaped from prison anyway. Mo Bai himself cannot expose his identity and take action rashly. Otherwise, he would be charged with assisting in prison escape, and even Makarov would not be able to get him out. Mo Bai suddenly had an idea in his mind and shouted behind him, "Lisa! Clam!" Lisa paused for a moment, saw the situation ahead, and understood immediately, and quickly traced a circle around her body with her fingers. Perception of magic slowness. Lisa was sealed in the ice by Gray for most of the previous battle. Although he was later bound by magic shackles, both his magic power and physical strength were retained to a certain extent, and it was more than enough to release magic. As a subtle and almost imperceptible magic wave dissipated in the air. In the sight of the guards on both sides, the few people who had just fled in front of them at normal speed were now, as if they turned on the accelerator instantly, running ridiculously fast one by one. In almost a second, he teleported from the stairs, passed through a defensive formation like the Maginot Line, and reached the door. Not even an afterimage was left. Boom! The sky-high flames suddenly flashed before their eyes, and the guards subconsciously protected their eyes. With a loud noise, the door collapsed. The guards stared blankly at the messy scene in front of them. Does this make them run away? The leading jailer narrowed his eyes slightly, with murderous intent surging in his eyes. He thrust the sword he carried into the ground and shouted loudly, "Chase! Chase everyone who can still breathe." Go out and chase. Under the romantic moon and starry sky, Mo Bai led the 5 people all the way to the woods on the side of the Senate House and disappeared into the green sea. After listening carefully, I confirmed that no pursuers were catching up. Mo Bai stretched and greedily sucked in the hard-won fresh air. I'm finally out. It's almost moldy in prison these days. As for the 5 generals of the 6 demons, even though they came out, their expressions were still a little confused and they looked around blankly. It seems like the spirit is still in prison. After a long time, seeing that the expressions on their faces had softened, Mo Bai walked up to them and explained, I know you may be curious as to why I brought you out for no reason. Before answering this question, I would like to announce 2 things first. First of all, congratulations on escaping from prison. You are now a free fugitive. I believe it won't be long before wanted posters will be posted all over the streets and alleys of the town. A cold snort interrupted Mo Bai's words. Turning his head to look, he saw Cobra with a disdainful look on his face. Mo Bai raised his eyebrows slightly. What? Is there something wrong with what I said? I don't care why you brought us out. I just know that now that I have regained my freedom, I don't need to take orders from anyone anymore. Cobra felt confident, said a few words, and turned around to leave. Mo Bai glanced at his back with interest and did not step forward to stop him. Just say a name gently from your mouth. Cubelios. Cobra, who was still taking determined steps, suddenly stopped where he was, turned around, and looked at Mo Bai with a stunned expression. What did you just say? You are in such a hurry to leave? I guess you want to find your snake friend Cubelios? Cobra staggered a few steps back to him, but his tone became a little trembling and excited. Do you know the whereabouts of Cubelios? Mo Bai nodded slightly and said, But before I tell you, you'd better listen to what I have to say. Previously, while in prison, Lisa mentioned Mo Bai to everyone, saying that he seemed to have the magical ability to see through all secrets and see into all things. Cobra can only choose to trust Mo Bai at this moment. After all, since he was arrested by the Senate, he has never received any news about Cubelios. Just looking for it like this is tantamount to looking for a needle in a haystack. Seeing that Cobra shut up obediently, Mo Bai returned to the previous topic. What did I just say? Oh yes, the second thing. The 6 demon generals have been destroyed. However, based on the original 6 demon generals, an independent guild named Witches Sin will be created. The Witches Sin does not belong to the regular guild registered by the council, nor does it belong to the Dark Guild. I will be the president for the time being, and you will all be one of the members. The meaning of the existence of Witches Sin is to wipe out all the scattered dark guilds and organizations that serve the devil on this continent. This is also the task you must complete in the next period of time. As for why it is called this name, you will naturally understand it in the future. Chapter 54: The Establishment of the Witch's Crime. Mo Bai finished speaking. The 5 people looked at each other, dumbfounded. I never expected Mo Bai to sing like this. For a long time, Lisa was the first to retort. You said we are free now. Why should we be bound by you and join an inexplicable guild? Mo Bai shrugged nonchalantly and spoke in a deep voice. Joining or not joining depends entirely on your personal wishes. I will not force you, but I have already said that you are still fugitives and are destined to live in the shadows. But if you can enter the Witches Sin, you only need to live a few more years of hardship before you can usher in true freedom. The interest of several people was immediately aroused. Real freedom? When Mo Bai saw this, he simply drew a pie. When the Dark Guild is completely eradicated by you, I will have the capital to talk to the royal family of the kingdom. At that time, I will apply to the royal family and ask for amnesty for you. Angel asked in surprise. Are you still connected with the royal family of the kingdom? Of course, Mo Bai replied. In fact, he still felt a little guilty when he said this. After all, since entering this world, let alone seeing the royal family, there have been very few rumors. Fortunately, there is only so much time to come. When they succeed, Mo Bai is very sure that he will be able to establish relations with the royal family. The hearts of the 5 people were gradually shaken, but they were still dubious about Mo Bai and remained silent. Even Hot Eye, who was restored to kindness under the influence of Nirvana, did not make his position clear at the moment. Hot Eye doesn't have any lofty pursuits like wiping out the Dark Guild. He just wants to find his long-lost brother. If we really followed Mo Bai's instructions, how many more years would we have before we can search again? Seeing them, they remained silent. Mo Bai paused for a moment and spoke about the past again. The Tower of Paradise was destroyed some time ago. Have you all heard about this? The 6 demon generals are obviously concerned about such a major event. Midnight recalled the news he saw at that time, nodded and replied, I have an impression. I remember it seemed to be started by a person named Jalal, but was later stopped by 2 mysterious people. Well, maybe you won't believe it when I tell you. I was the one who defeated Jalal at that time. Ahem. Mo Bai tactically coughed twice and added, I'm not saying this to highlight myself. I'm just reminding you that the nightmare that once dominated you is over. Personally, I still hope to see you start your life again. There was a hint of surprise in the eyes of the 5 people. Wait, how do you know about us in the Tower of Paradise? Mo Bai responded calmly. I know everything about the 6 demon generals, whether it's the secrets about the previous president or the past of each of you being enslaved by the Tower of Paradise when you were young. Lisa recalled the scene when she was captured alive by Mo Bai and frozen in ice. As early as that time, Mo Bai already knew the secrets of the 6 prayers. Only then did a few people realize that their failure was not just due to the gap in strength. Since the appearance of Mo Bai, the information between the 2 sides has been completely unequal. Mo Bai breathed a sigh of relief and gave an ultimatum. I have said what needs to be said. The choice is in your hands. Whether you plan to continue to live in exile in the future or start a new life after atonement, think carefully. A long while, Hot Eye clenched the fist in his hand and accepted the olive branch thrown by Mo Bai, as if he had made some determination. I very much hope that when I see my brother next time, he will be innocent and not a fugitive. I am willing to join the witch's crime. Besides, if I go around to fight against the Dark Guild, I should be able to find you early. Wally. Since being influenced by Nirvana, Hot Eye has stopped talking about money. Instead, he went to find his long-lost brother. Can be followed. Hot Eye heard the most exciting news directly from Mo Bai. Your brother's name is Wally, right? After the liberation of Paradise Tower, he now has his own partner and is traveling around on a boat. He can be regarded as living a free life. Really? Mo Bai smiled and nodded. Maybe you will meet in an unexpected way somewhere in the world in the future. Seeing Hot Eye shed tears of excitement, Cobra, who couldn't hold it back for a long time, couldn't help but ask, since you know everything, can you tell me where Cuberios is now? As long as you help me find it, I will join you right away. Mo Bai recalled what he told Gray a few days ago, frowned slightly, and said slowly, if everything goes well, she should have been brought back to Fairy Tale by my partner. The president will help her remove the curse, right? Cobra is a little confused. I feel like I'm not on the same page as Mo Bai at all. Curse? What curse? Mo Bai explained. Cubelios is not a snake at all, but a living human girl. It is only because she was cursed when she was young that she has remained in the form of a snake. So that's it, Cobra murmured. No wonder when I first met Cuberios in the Tower of Paradise, I felt that this little snake was very understanding of human nature and later became my most sincere friend. How's it going? Do you want me to take you to the guild? Mo Bai asked. No need. After I defeat the Dark Guild and regain my freedom, I will go find her in person. Cobra's words still have a sense of tit-for-tat and unyieldingness. But the implication is that it is also the crime of choosing to join the witch. I'll join too. Count me in. Immediately afterwards, Angel and Lisa also stretched out their palms and stacked them with Hot Eye and Cobra. All eyes were focused on Midnight, who had remained silent. There was still hesitation in Midnight's eyes. He seemed worried, and after a moment he hesitated and said, Can I ask you a question first? Please. Mo Bai pretended to be all ears. Midnight hit the nail on the head. Why on earth are you helping us? The other 4 people who had originally agreed to join the witches and also turned their attention to him at this moment. This question is also what they want to know. Under the gaze of everyone, Mo Bai scratched the back of his head unnaturally with an embarrassed smile on his face. How should I put it? In the Fairy Tale Guild, there is a girl I care about very much. She also had an unfortunate childhood and was captured by the Tower of Paradise. So, I don't want to see anyone's normal life affected again because of that damn tower. Hearing this, Midnight finally extended his hand and showed a trusting smile towards Mo Bai. I understand. Thank you. Under the bright moon and stars. Mo Bai stepped forward in 3 steps and placed his right hand on top of everyone else, saying loudly, "In this case, I hereby announce that the Independent Guild Witches' Sin has been officially established." The palms of their hands were raised high into the air. Mo Bai is smiling and high-spirited. From now on, I can be regarded as the president of one side. Chapter 55 Bite Back. After a while, council inside the temporary prison. The guard captain returned with many magic soldiers defeated. After searching for so long, nothing was found, not even the shadow of the 6 demon generals. The guard captain was already very angry. As soon as he returned to the prison, he heard another noise in front of him and shouted, "What's the fuss about? Isn't it chaotic enough?" The noise stopped abruptly. In the long and narrow corridor, a man covered in burnt black clothes and rags rolled up to him. "Team, Captain, and the jailer on the 2nd floor. I know how the 6 demon generals escaped. If you know it, tell me quickly," the guard captain urged impatiently. "Yes, the suspect in cell number 6 is called Mo Bai. He knocked me unconscious when I wasn't paying attention and stole the crystal ball I used to open the door. He must have released the 6 demon generals. Come out." When the captain heard this, he did not show any excitement about getting clues. Instead, he sneered a few times. The cell door of General 6 Demons was obviously forced open by brute force. "What did Mo Bai do with your number 6 crystal ball?" The jailer hesitated. Maybe he didn't know at the time that the crystal ball could only open cell door number 6, and then saw that it had no effect, so he chose to force the door open. "Nonsense," the captain snapped. The jailer was so frightened that he bent down even lower, not daring to look at him. So he weakly applied, "How about you go over and take a look first? It won't take long. If that kid is not in prison, wouldn't everything make sense?" The captain then thought about it and realized that indeed, there was nothing gained at all so far. In case this matter is really related to Mo Bai, the subsequent investigation will be easier to conduct. "Lead the way." Yes. In front of prison number 6, the captain's face was clouded, followed by many followers and trembling jailers. He watched helplessly as Mo Bai lay on the floor of the prison and slept soundly. The cell door was intact and still closed. The jailer hurriedly kicked the cell door before the captain could get angry. There was a sound of metal colliding, and he shouted, "Get up! Don't pretend to be asleep." Mo Bai was still lying lazily on the ground. "Turned over. Go back to sleep." But the jailer was right about one thing. Mo Bai was indeed faking it. Just now, after Lin Zhong sent away the 5 new members of the Witch's Sin, he happened to catch up with the captain and all the people to go out to find the prison escapee, relying on the speed advantage of wind and thunder linkage. Mo Bai returned the same way, after using the magic crystal ball to lock himself back in prison. He immediately crushed it to destroy the evidence. Pretend nothing happened. The jailer was completely panicked, and his tone became more and more excited, even with a hint of asking for help. Get up quickly." Mo Bai then rubbed his sleepy eyes and looked at the group of people in front of him in confusion. "What are you doing? Preventing anyone from sleeping in the middle of the night? Tell me, did you let General 6 Demons go? He also stole my crystal ball. None of my business." Mo Bai put down the 4 words impatiently and lay down again. "You." The jailer wanted to say something more, but was frightened to the spot by a loud roar from the captain next to him. "That's enough. Drag this man down, revoke all his positions, and lock him up like a prisoner." The magic soldiers on both sides stepped forward and roughly grabbed the jailer's arms to drag him away. The horror on the jailer's face was clear, and he tried his best to explain. "No, my crystal ball was really stolen. It must still be with him." Mo Bai simply took off his shirt and trousers and showed off in front of a few people, showing that he had nothing on him. The jailer still refused to give up. He stared at Mo Bai with his bloodshot eyes and asked, "Where did you hide my crystal ball?" "Then how do I know? Maybe you lost it yourself." Mo Bai yawned and said nonchalantly, "You." The jailer struggled. He had no choice but to free up a hand to protect his heavy chest, as if he would be unable to control the blood spurting out at the next moment. But when the captain glanced at the naked Mo Bai, his brows furrowed again. "Why are there no magic shackles on your wrists?" The jailer then remembered that before Mo Bai knocked him unconscious, he had broken the magic shackles with brute force. It is impossible to find the same lock and fasten it on your wrist again in a short period of time. The jailer's distorted face suddenly bloomed with a flower, thinking that he had caught Mo Bai's flaw. "I'll make you look good later." Who would have guessed? When Mo Bai heard this, he immediately made a big question mark. Magic shackles? What the hell? I've never heard of it. Ah! The jailer was just about to scold Mo Bai for telling lies. But the next second, he first saw the guard captain's eyes that were almost blazing. "I lost the crystal ball, forgot to assemble the shackles for the prisoners, and even wanted to take advantage of the 6 demon generals to escape from prison and shirk all the blame away from myself." Very good. No, that's not the case. Please listen to my explanation. The jailer waved his hands desperately and shook his head like a rattle. But the guard captain just waved his hand impatiently and ordered his followers to drag him down forcefully. The jailer's pleas for mercy became smaller and smaller until they disappeared. The captain glanced indifferently at Mo Bai, who had an innocent face, and ordered his men in a low voice. "Were the shackles on the prisoners in cell number 6. The 6 demon generals are already troublesome enough. I don't want to see any more trouble." "Yes." Seeing that his wrist was locked by this black iron block for the 3rd time, Mo Bai still looked indifferent. "See everyone leaving." The big stone in his heart fell to the ground, and Mo Bai lay tiredly by the wall. "Tomorrow is the day of judgment. As long as we can go out with legitimate reasons, everything will be easy to talk about." That night, perhaps because the things you wanted to do when you entered the prison in the first place have been completed, after being imprisoned for 2 or 3 days, Mo Bai has never slept as peacefully as he did today. He even dreamed of the 5 former 6 demon generals who had just parted ways. In a daze, he muttered a few words in his sleep. "Cobra, Lisa, Angel, Hot Eye Midnight. I know that you were captured by the Tower of Paradise when you were young and used as slave sacrifices. Your respective prayers were also made after torture. Cobra, in his daily despair, wants to listen to the voice of his only friend Caberios. Lisa wants to be faster than anyone else, so she can escape from that hell. Angel looks up to the sky, hoping that he can fly far away like an angel and leave this place. Hot Eye tried his best to reunite with his brother Wally. Midnight just wants to sleep peacefully in a quiet place, without being woken up by the guards of the Tower of Paradise, scolding and whipping. The crime of the witch has been established. I hope that one day you will be able to realize your prayers." Chapter 56, that's right. I'm mentally ill the next morning. Mo Bai was still yawning. He was woken up by a new jailer who opened the cell door and was taken away in a daze. When he woke up from his nap, he found that he was already in a spacious and bright hall. The gallery behind him was almost full of people, including Lahar, the captain of the 4th Force Supervision Team, who had previously sent him to prison. Facing the high court platform in front of them, the 10 members of Congress were seated separately. Rather than looking solemn, each of them looked paralyzed. He seemed to be in a bad mood. Mo Bai can roughly guess some of the reasons. They probably also heard about the 6 demon generals' escape from prison last night, and they're still worried at the moment. For a long time, the old man with the highest authority in the central government looked down at Mo Bai and shouted in a southern accent. "Fairy Tale Guild Mo Bai, do you admit that you killed Brian, the leader of the 6 demon generals, despite dissuasion in the presence of council members and troops?" "Yes." Mo Bai replied casually. "Do you admit that you defeated Jalal in the Tower of Paradise incident and prevented the initiation of the dark ritual?" "Yo-ho!" Mo Bai couldn't help but be stunned. It seems that the council is not as stupid as he thought, and has also investigated his past achievements. However, it is not ruled out that Makarov informed them before. "Yes." Mo Bai gave an affirmative answer again. An imperceptible light flashed in the old man's eyes. "Very good. So, do you admit that you suffer from or have suffered from mental magic illness, accompanied by intermittent emotional outbursts, and are you undergoing active treatment?" Mo Bai's face was full of question marks. Does it mean that he said in disguise that he was mentally ill and that he accidentally killed Brian when he was ill? Mo Bai secretly cursed in his heart. It seems that the gold medal of immunity from death of mental illness is universal no matter where it is. Isn't this also arranged by the president? Of course, Mo Bai was not stupid, so he just stepped down and admitted it. Yes, I am mentally ill. In the gallery, when Lahar heard this, he was so angry that he almost jumped up from his seat. Mo Bai ignored it and continued to talk. But the president has been arranging for me to receive treatment from Granny Poryuzica, but I still have attacks occasionally. Even I can't control them when they happen. It sounds like it's true. Even the several congressmen sitting on the stage couldn't stand it anymore, and their faces suddenly drooped. A middle-aged male congressman simply stretched his neck and whispered something into the old man's ear. Hey, this is the Court of Justice. Is there anything we can't say openly? Under the stage, Mo Bai shouted to the front with a slight dissatisfaction. The middle-aged councilman glared at Mo Bai before sitting back down in frustration. Everyone in the auditorium at the back looked at each other in surprise. Although I have long heard that magicians in the Fairy Tale Guild have a sense of relaxation, I didn't expect them to be so fierce and dare to challenge the council members in court. The old man stretched out his right hand and touched the wooden hammer next to him, knocked it twice under the table, looked around both sides, and said, "Does anyone else have any objections to the results of the discussion just now?" No one answered anymore. The middle-aged congressman tilted his head to the side irritably and said nothing. The old man smiled. Okay, now that the facts of the case have become clear, the verdict will be officially announced. Mo Bai, a member of the Fairy Tale Guild, has made extraordinary contributions to the chaos in the Tower of Paradise, and the Brian who was killed this time is the leader of the Dark Guild who committed the most heinous crimes. In addition, you yourself also have certain mental disorders, so you should relax your boundaries to a certain extent. On behalf of the Magic Council, I declare that you are not guilty this time and can be released in court. However, you must be treated actively and do not engage in excessive behavior again. Otherwise, you will be severely punished. Dong! The wooden hammer fell again. The magic soldier in the court walked up to Mo Bai, took out a special magic key, and opened the magic shackles. Congratulations on your freedom, the magic soldier whispered. Thanks. Mo Bai moved his hands and feet in relief. Looking sideways, the sun shines through the window lattice and shines particularly brightly in my eyes, even though he was only held for 3 days. But every minute and second of losing freedom here seems torturous. Mo Bai doesn't want to be a bird in a cage. I can finally return to the guild. I wonder what will change in the past few days. After a while, the main entrance to the Senate House, bathed in the long-lost sunlight, Mo Bai watched as a green convertible off-road vehicle drove at a high speed from a distance and drove until it stopped just in front of him. Magic locomotive, the so-called magic motorcycle, is also a common means of transportation in the kingdom. It does not burn oil or consume electricity. Just connect one end of the magic duct to the wizard's body, and the magic power can be used to help the locomotive start. What caught Mo Bai's attention the most was the driver. Sitting in front of the steering wheel is a graceful young female wizard, wearing a tight-fitting racing suit that outlines her body curves vividly. The long crimson hair looks particularly warm and fiery in the sun, exuding a faint fragrance. The black sunglasses she wore blocked the sight of both parties, making her face unclear for a while, adding a sense of mystery. For some reason, Mo Bai felt an inexplicable familiarity and intimacy with her, but he couldn't explain it specifically. He was stunned for a moment. "What are you doing? Come on up." Wait, this voice. Mo Bai's heart trembled. Seeing the red-haired girl take off her sunglasses with a smile, revealing her beautiful face, Mo Bai was dumbfounded on the spot. "Erza, why are you here?" No wonder I felt that the other person was familiar from the beginning, but I didn't dare to recognize him. It turned out to be her. By the way, this is the first time Mo Bai has seen Erza dressed like this. After all, most of the time, she showed off an armor. Erza smiled sweetly. "Of course I'm here to take you back to the guild. Come up first." Mo Bai swallowed, then clumsily opened the car door and climbed into the passenger seat. "What? You don't like my outfit today?" "Of course. I like it. I'm just not used to seeing you change clothes all of a sudden." Mo Bai answered honestly. Erza shook her head slightly, smiled, put on her sunglasses again, and stepped on the accelerator. The off-road vehicle swayed out of the sand and drove straight back to the direction of Magnolia. Mo Bai turned his head and looked at the side of the car, letting the wind slap him on the face, but feeling inexplicably more secure in his heart. Looking out the window at the rows of trees flying backward, Mo Bai asked slowly, "Are you all okay during this time? It's the same as before, noisy every day. However, everyone often mentions you after dinner." "Yeah." Especially Natsu and Gray. They have been arguing with the president all day long, asking the president to find a way to get you out of the council. It seems that everyone misses you very much, right? When Mo Bai heard this, he had no idea at all. Lung Buting suddenly asked, "What about you? Miss me too?" The words came out. Erza was immediately startled, and her feet were completely gone. In panic, he stepped on the brakes to the bottom. Mo Bai only felt that his upper body was leaning forward wildly and uncontrollably, and he almost hit the front windshield directly. Fortunately, I wore my seatbelt when I got in the car, otherwise I would have had to fly out. The SUV stopped in place. After taking a deep breath, Erza calmed down a little and tilted her head apologetically. "I'm sorry." Mo Bai rolled his eyes and had to wave his hand. "It's okay. No need to answer. Just pretend I didn't ask." Chapter 57, a secret that only men know? Standing in front of a familiar building. As soon as Mo Bai opened the guild door, people inside swarmed over. "Welcome home. How is it? Is it fun in prison?" "It's quite fun. Everyone there is talented and their speeches are nice. I suggest you go in and have a sit next time. I heard that there is a female congresswoman who is quite pretty. Have you seen her? Does she look good? Except for the tearful sister who blew up the Senate before, I really haven't seen anyone beautiful." Mo Bai, you are finally back. Have a good fight with me now. I'm on fire." Jaws of the Brontosaurus. Mo Bai punched out. Natsu, who was clamoring to compete with him 1 second, was electrocuted in a charcoal the next moment and flew out in smoke. By the way, they also solved the problem and opened a path through the crowd. Mo Bai walked slowly. On the counter directly in front of his eyes, the short old man was still sitting, drinking tea leisurely. "President, I'm back." Makarov slowly raised his head, without much confusion in his eyes. "Just come back. Today's banquet is specially arranged for you. Are you alone for me?" Only then did Mo Bai notice that the overall layout of the guild was much cleaner and tidier than before, and had obviously been carefully taken care of. Each long table was also filled with exquisite dishes. "Welcome back. Then let's start the party." Makarov finally grinned, and the wrinkles on his face piled up. "Yeah." The crowd behind Mo Bai, which had calmed down slightly, now erupted into cheers again. Makarov stood up slowly, glanced around, and coughed twice. "Well, before we officially start, I still want to say a few words." "What else are you talking about, President? Can you start quickly? It's so verbose. Are you always like this as you get older?" Before the words could be spoken, he was mercilessly interrupted by the complaining crowd. Gray was already sitting at the dining table, chewing some unknown object in his mouth, complaining while eating. "Old man, your specialty dish is too delicious. It's far worse than yesterday's, isn't it?" Makarov was so angry that he blew his beard and stared. "How can it taste worse than yesterday? This is what was burned yesterday. You better not go into the kitchen from now on and let Mira cook. Also, Natsu, please eat slowly and save some for me. Do you think it's shameful for you to eat in such a disgraceful way? This is a banquet, and everyone is a civilized person. Your eating skills are no better than mine. Man, are any of you listening to me?" Seeing that the guild was once again noisy as before, no one paid attention to the messy Makarov. Mo Bai also had a relaxed smile on his face. "This is fairy tale. Everyone, make a move. The cake is here." A sweet voice drew the attention of everyone who was devouring food together again. When their eyes met, Mira Jane smiled, rolled out a basin-sized cake from the dining cart, and placed it directly in front of Mo Bai. "Since we are celebrating our first safe return from the Senate, can you cut this cake?" "No problem." Mo Bai stepped forward, grabbed the knife blade on the side, and was about to start. There was a strong, pushing feeling from behind. Then his whole head was buried, and his vision suddenly became dim. The sweet breath flowed into the nose and tongue, and Mo Bai's face felt soft and sticky, which felt better than Kana's breasts. Ha 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 ha. Mo Bai raised his head. He brushed the cream from his eyes and looked at the room full of people who were smiling wildly with a bitter look on his face. Don't waste the cake. Mo Bai licked the corners of his mouth as he spoke. Just the right amount of sweet. It's a pity that the cake, which was originally in the shape of a stubby cylinder, has been deeply dented in the middle, with his face perfectly imprinted on it. Mo Bai suddenly felt a gentle hand coming towards his face. Mira! Mira Jane smiled at Mo Bai and gently wiped the white cream on Mo Bai's face with a tissue. It doesn't matter, I already guessed that everyone would do this, so I made a bigger one in advance. Puff! It's painfully skillful. This guild would really be broken up without Mira. And while Mo Bai was waiting for Mira to roll out the next cake, another slender arm was wrapped around his neck. His head fell back, and he looked up to see a charming face. Little Mo Bai, come and try this cup of wheat juice. Recalling the last time he was poured 96% water of life by this female drunkard, Mo Bai refused to take the glass this time without saying anything. Kana, I've paid for your drinks this month, but I really can't drink the wine. During Mo Bai's panic struggle, he accidentally touched something soft with his elbow. A blush suddenly appeared on Kana's face. Immediately, he turned his head and looked at Mo Bai with a wicked smile, and even put his face towards her. Originally, I just wanted to tease you. But since you have already touched my sister, why don't you have a drink to apologize? I didn't mean to. In the midst of entanglement, Erza, who had been silent since she brought Mo Bai back to the guild, suddenly stepped forward. He took the wine glass from Kana's hand and drank it in one gulp. Mo Bai doesn't know how to drink. I'll take this drink for him. Erza smiled and flicked the bottom of her cup at Mo Bai and Kana, who looked confused. Then he turned around and walked away. Almost exactly the same as at the last Civil War dinner. Mo Bai couldn't help but wonder, why does she talk so little as soon as she arrives at the banquet? But let me tell you something, she looked so handsome when she was holding my drink back just now. After simply filling your stomach, seeing that everyone in the guild was not enjoying themselves. Mo Bai slipped out of the guild alone and walked aimlessly on the streets of Magnolia. He hasn't been back for a few days, and he still misses this place. A river runs through the town, and boats pass by from time to time. Mo Bai's previous favorite was connecting along the river. But this time, he didn't go far when he saw two sneaky figures leaning on the strong side. It seems like they're plotting something bad. Mo Bai is quite familiar with these two people. The two greasy uncles of the guild, Makeo and Wakaba. It's strange. Usually if there is a banquet, wouldn't the two of them have fun until the end with their personalities? There is weirdness. Mo Bai simply waved directly in their direction, quickened his pace, and ran over. Makeo Wakaba. The moment the two heard the shout, his body trembled involuntarily, and he turned around like a thief. Until I saw them calling them Mo Bai. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. What are you doing? Before he finished speaking, the two men stepped forward to hold Mo Bai's arms, one on the left and the other on the right, and forced him to a corner. Macau also extended his index finger to his mouth. Keep your voice down, I'll take you to a good place later. Clam. Although Mo Bai claims to know Fairy Tail better than everyone else in Fairy Tail Guild. But for a while, I really didn't understand what Macau meant. Wakaba also took off the pipe in his mouth, blew out a puff of smoke, and showed a meaningful smile. Only real men are qualified to know about this good place. That's right. In other words, this is a secret that only successful male magicians know. The two of them sang and harmonized, and the more they talked, the more mysterious they became. But they kept talking about it and refused to say it clearly. Mo Bai's face was full of question marks. No. What on earth do you want to say? Chapter 58 Dream Demon Custom Museum Macau looked back again, making sure that no one was paying attention, and suggested, it's almost time, let's take him in with us. Walk. Mo Bai still didn't know why, so he had to follow the two of them and move forward along the narrow alley. Due to his blocked vision, he couldn't see clearly what was in front of him. After leaving for a while, a pungent aroma suddenly penetrated the nose. What does this smell like? It's a little bit heady, different from the light fragrance of natural flowers. This fragrance goes straight to the brain, instantly bringing strong stimulation and refreshing feeling. Mo Bai only felt that his heartbeat began to accelerate significantly. Eve Mo Xiao Bai was also stimulated by this smell and was ready to move and set up a tent. What the hell is this? Arrive. Macau and Wakaba stopped and stepped into a store on the right. The source of that fragrance seemed to be inside. Mo Bai stopped and looked up. Although this store is located in a remote location, the decoration on the plaque is no less than that of the magic item shops on the bustling streets, with large pink flowing characters engraved high on it. But when he recognized the words above, suddenly dumbfounded. Yuma Custom House? There is no way it's coming. You have to go in and take a look. But Makao and Wakaba disappeared long ago. Mo Bai could only bite the bullet and move forward. Under the dim, pink light, the fragrance is even more intense. Hello, is this your first time visiting our store? As soon as he stepped into the store, the lady at the front desk, who was more than 10 steps away, came forward to greet him warmly. Mo Bai looked up and down and almost spit out nosebleeds. The charming front desk lady is not only hot in figure, but also very bold in her clothes. Only sexy underwear is used to cover the key parts, and the rest of the skin is exposed. It is difficult not to make people think about it. The white and tall peaks on her chest are constantly swaying, and they continue to attract attention. Mo Bai tried his best to control, but Mo Xiao Bai still stood up unsatisfactorily. The lady at the front desk seemed to have seen many such scenes. She smiled coquettishly and didn't mind at all. First time we meet, my name is Kath. How should I call you? Mo Bai. Mr. Mo Bai, please come with me. Kath twisted her slender waist, gently raised Mo Bai's chin with her index finger, showed a smile that seemed to take advantage, and walked towards the room on the second floor. Mo Bai touched his nose awkwardly. This experience seems to be more exciting than being teased by Kana, and after arriving in the room, Mo Bai discovered that there was only a short table and chairs inside, and an old cabinet with a bunch of medicine jars and magic scrolls next to it. It seems a little different from what I expected. Please sit down. Sensing the change in Mo Bai's expression, Kath took the pen and scroll off the cabinet and placed them on the table. Let me first introduce to you how we work. To put it simply, we can use dream magic to customize some dreams that can make you feel happy according to your personal needs, such as dating and falling in love with the woman you like. Mo Bai suddenly realized. It turns out that this is what the dream demon meant. Kath smiled and pushed another blue scroll in front of Mo Bai. This magic scroll corresponds to the identity characteristics you have in the dream. For example, if you want to be a king, a powerful magician, etc., you can achieve it. Or turn into some green-skinned goblins. Of course, there are also customers who want to try out what it's like to be a girl. This can also be achieved. What's your taste? Although Mo Bai occasionally gets some weird XP. However, it always feels a bit strange to hear these things from other people's mouths. After all, this is the first time I've come across this kind of thing, so it's better to be normal. I want to be myself first. Alright, you can just skip this scroll. Kath showed a sly smile and handed over another scroll next to her. This scroll corresponds to all the situations of the partner you dated in your dream, including name, appearance, figure, personality, even the magic used, etc. You can fill it all in. In addition, if you have a woman you like in real life, you might as well fill in her information. A girl similar to her will be automatically generated in the dream based on your imagination. This sounds a bit punishing. Mo Bai swallowed. I couldn't help but ask. Fill in the real girls around you. Is this really okay? It doesn't matter, it's just a dream. It won't cause any trouble to her in reality. Kath's words reminded Mo Bai. It was just a dream anyway. It makes sense to dream about a girl in real life, right? Think of this. Mo Bai's heart skipped a beat. He picked up his pen and started writing on the scroll. Name, Erza. Identity, fairy tale S-class magician, known as the Fairy Queen. Magic, cross-dressing. Character, cold on the outside and hot on the inside. There are also some data on body shape. Completed. Mo Bai checked it carefully again. Then I left it to Kath with confidence. Kath took the scroll with her jade hand, threw it into the medicine pot aside, and took out a bunch of magic potions from the cabinet and added it. The medicine pot is getting hotter and hotter. The medicine inside began to bubble, turning from blue to green, and finally to yellow, like the bromothymol blue aqueous solution. It's ready. After a few minutes, as Cass's finger tapped lightly on the edge of the pot, the viscous yellow liquid gushed out and fell into the bottle on the table. Mo Bai held the reagent in the palm of his hand and asked before drinking it, "By the way, how much does it cost to have such a dream?" "Don't worry. As for the fees, the 2 regular guests who came before you have already paid for you," Cass said softly. The 2 regular visitors refer to Makao and Wakaba, although the 2 of them usually live in a tight situation. However, facing Mo Bai, who arrived for the first time, he was still generous. Is this so? The image of the 2 of them in Mo Bai's mind couldn't help but be much taller. "Look at the potion in your hand again." Mo Bai tilted his head back slightly and drank every drop. When Cass saw this, she showed a charming smile again, leaned into Mo Bai's ear, and whispered, "Just have a good rest, and wish you a good dream at night. By the way, in order to ensure the stability of your dreams, you can drink appropriately before going to bed, but don't drink too much. In addition, it is recommended not to do strenuous exercise before going to bed. Otherwise, the magic scroll may become ineffective." Chapter 59. Will I accompany you next time? It's getting late. Mo Bai has not returned to his residence for a long time, since he followed Mirage to the village of Garak to hunt down the demon and Nizalong, the 2-story villa on the outskirts of Magnolia. When Mo Bai was about to arrive, he discovered from a distance that the lights were still on in the villa. A burglar? Mo Bai was stunned, immediately activated the wings of the storm dragon, and flew across the ground at high speed. "Although there is nothing valuable at home, we can't just let anyone carry it." Clang! Mo Bai smashed the glass directly, landed steadily in the living room, and folded his wings. "Look around." Only then did he see the true face of the so-called thief. "Ah, it's you, Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Wendy." The 4 of them looked at Mo Bai, who was going home, through the broken window, and were quite speechless. You can probably guess that maybe they thought they were thieves. "By the way, why are you in my house?" Mo Bai couldn't help but ask after coming back to his senses. "Erza said you hadn't been back for so long, and there was no one to clean the house, so she dragged us together to help you clean." "No, you came back just after cleaning up." "Yeah." Mo Bai felt warm in his heart. "After living alone for a long time, I'm used to doing everything by myself. It feels good to be taken care of occasionally." However, he also thought that he had just come out of the Dream Demon Custom Museum and filled in Erza's information. A feeling of guilt arises spontaneously. "What's wrong? Why are you so dazed?" An armored arm dangled in front of Mo Bai's eyes, and when he looked up, it was Erza. "AI! Erza!" Mo Bai almost cried out. Erza didn't understand why. "What's wrong with you? You were so shocked when you saw me." "Ah, no, it's okay." Mo Bai's eyes were wildly escaping, and he always avoided looking at her. Fortunately, Erza didn't care and changed the topic. "By the way, I just borrowed your kitchen to use. I've already prepared the food. Tonight we have a small team gathering to celebrate Wendy's joining."
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. R18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.